I've got 7 o'clock. I'm going to open up the February 24th meeting of the Wakefield Conservation Commission. First up, we'll take roll call. Jimmy. Jimmy, I see Jimmy, you are muted. Ken.
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Silvana.
Yes.
Jimmy.
Here.
All right. Don't see Teresa, and I know Frank will not make it tonight. We will start with the approval of the minutes.
Bob, can I just mention the January 27th minutes have to be revoted on? They have to be done separately, the open session and the executive session.
Okay,
So a new vote has to be taken. Thank you.
that was January what?
27th.
Okay. All right, so let's take that one first. So the minutes for January 27th. We'll start with the executive session minutes. Is there a motion to approve those?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yep.
Savannah,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I also vote to approve those minutes. Next would be the regular open meeting minutes for January 27th. Is there a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yep.
Savannah,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
and I also vote to approve those minutes. All right, next up would be the minutes for February 10th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Peter,
Yes.
Savannah,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes.
And I'm here.
and Teresa.
Then approving the minutes?
Yes, for February 10th.
Yes.
And I also approve those minutes. All right. First up is Lake Quannapowitt. Is the applicant here?
There's no,
Oh, sorry. No, that is 7:45. We actually have Lake Quannapowitt tributary discussion with Elaine for 7 o'clock.
Yeah, so can you all hear me?
Yes.
yes,
Okay. It seemed to me that since this area receives a lot of water from the greater watershed, that it would be a good idea to have an idea of exactly what feeds into that area. So I sent you this afternoon an email that shows where those tributaries points of origin are and where they flow to. So Bob, if you could pull up the email I sent you this afternoon, we could get it on the screen.
Yes. Yeah, bear with me. Okay, this is the one you're referring to?
There are, that's one of several.
Okay,
They're all scanned and they should be one right after the other. There's 5, I believe. Okay, so this one starts out, it goes, starts out in Reading. You can see, you can follow the curve there as it crosses, I guess that's Route 28. And then goes up, forgive me, my screen is small. Walker's Brook Drive. And then it continues, there it is. It continues down. And then if you go to the next page picks it up from there. Okay, and follows through this swamp. Okay, where are we? There we are. And then if you go, yeah, Bob, you've got the cursor in the right spot. And then you can see that it joins up with Walker's Brook. And then if you go up on the map, you cross over 129. You'll see, I didn't go any higher than that wetland shown there. That's the headwaters of it. But it picks up it picks up all of the water there, goes through what they call in Reading Timberneck Swamp. And then if you go down to where it joins up and then go back up again, you'll see that there's another tributary that goes up to probably the 129 circle. And so if you go to the next map, you'll see that it goes through what they call Old Town Wells Pumping Station, and it joins up with the Saugus River down below the location of the dam. Now, part of that system is the Reading Canal, which is an artificial waterway designed to pick up some of that water and bypass the lake and discharge directly into the Saugus River. Now, if you go back and you take a look again at, here we go, up by the dam, let's see.
Which,
I'm trying, hold on, you're moving, here, stop. That's it. Go, there's two things I'd like you to look at. One is, I can't, okay, there we go. See where it says 128 just before the 129 circle? There's a little hand,
Yeah.
you can see, okay. That area there drains Track Road and Harvest Road on the other side of 128. Now you've received some photographs from Dennis Cloudy that show some pictures of that. That's the sort of the bird's eye view of where it starts. It starts with drainage on that little development on the other side of 128 and drains into the lake.
so here's track and line right here where I'm circling.
right. Yep,
There's a hand-drawn drainage.
that's right.
Yeah.
Now the other one, go down a little bit. That, whoop, no, I'm sorry, not on another plan.
Okay.
But, okay, just down from the one we looked at, you'll see that there's a discharge of Walker's Brook into the lake. That water never makes its way into the lake. If you go up Quannapowitt Parkway and look at it in the field, you'll see that it goes to the wetland that we have been discussing in the filing, but never makes its way to the lake itself because there's a blockage in the culvert under Lake Quannapowitt. So all of that water then, since it never makes its way to the lake, backs up.
Elaine, where's the blockage? Is it under 128 or under Lake?
No, it's under Quannapowitt Parkway.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. 'Cause I did-
So Walker's Brook never discharges to Lake Quannapowitt. Now,
because
this
the blockage is under the parkway and not under 128.
correct.
Okay, thank you.
So that blockage is somewhere around where I'm
It's
hovering my
on
cursor.
On the subject
Yes.
property.
If you walk down Lake Quannapowitt, and I think you've all been to the site, if you are facing the lake and the wetland is to your right-hand side, there's a culvert there
Right.
that should drain the wetland. And for some reason, it's blocked, and the water never makes its way to the lake.
So
Uh,
did
There's
you
all
go,
sorts of vegetation growing in there, yes.
did you go into Lake Quannapowitt to see that was blocked? How did you know that was blocked?
Yes, I went and looked at it. It's not a channel going out to the lake
And
at all.
that's on where the channel feeds into the lake, that's town-owned land, isn't it?
Yes, it would be, because the town owns on the other side of Lake Quannapowitt. Now, the little stream there, the one that I just showed you, also doesn't always make its way to the lake. What happens is there is a little gully behind 200 Quannapowitt that takes the water from Track Road and it runs it behind the property at 200 Quannapowitt, where it then joins, it either overflows when it's high into the parking lot. You'll see some photographs that Dennis sent you that he had taken of the flooded parking lot. And then it flows in a little ditch behind 200 Quannapowitt where it then joins Walker's Brook and never discharges to Lake Quannapowitt. So when you take a look at this, you will see that, okay, let's see, I'm trying to get, okay. So when the water doesn't discharge to Lake Quannapowitt, it backs up into this system and its relief point is the Reading Drainage Canal, which bypasses Quannapowitt and discharges into the Saugus River.
I'm guessing
And-
that would be this area.
That would be just down gradient. Nope, keep going. Go to Old Town Wells Pumping Station, right there.
So the Reading Drainage Canal is which area?
I bet the Reading Drainage Canal is what you have your cursor on.
Okay,
And then that joins the Saugus, and that's the relief point for all of this below Lake Quannapowitt. And
Okay.
that's how the drainage, to my knowledge, that's how the drainage works in that area.
so essentially it's bypassing this point here and it's short circuiting and coming through here.
Yes,
So the only inflow or input to the lake is here where where
That's
it is.
Will- That's on Willard Street, yeah.
Right.
on Willard Street, yeah.
Right, that's the only true feed from a, I guess, natural feed, I should say.
From the swamp on the other side of North Avenue.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
there you go.
Well, that explains a lot.
Now, were you going to talk about the fact that Quannapowitt is a Class A water with Zone A?
You know what? Rebecca had put that on. And I thought that that portion of the discussion would be better left for the next meeting. I'm still trying to find out if projects that were filed before November of 2021 are grandfathered or not. But it will be a Class A water body going forward. And I thought that rather than give all that information tonight, what I would do is put together an information package on what kind of difference that's going to make and send you an information package with the next meeting. So for this meeting, we're just doing Lake Quannapowitt and tributaries. Just so you know which way the water flows. And there it is right there. So because Quannapowitt feeds into the Saugus water supply, Quannapowitt and the tributaries to Quannapowitt have now been classified as surface water supplies and a Class A water body, which is suitable for drinking. It was a Class B previously, which is suitable for, I think, swimming and boating. now it is a Class A.
And
Because
again, you'll
it's
tell
more
us more,
water.
but that severely limits what can be discharged into the lake, obviously. Right.
Yeah, it has implications going at least forward. I'm not sure back, but that's one of the things that I'm going to take a look at at the next meeting.
Okay, Elaine, is there any other emails you want me to share or show at this point?
Not at this point, no. I sent you all emails that I thought you would find useful for this evening's meeting, but that's the only one under this topic.
Okay, great. Thank you. Very informative. And well explained.
Thank you.
All right. All right, if there's nothing else in that, Elaine, we'll move on to 2 Clyde Court, DEP 313613.
Okay, so just before you get going, I sent you an email this afternoon that has the revised plan that Paul Finocchio sent to the office.
Got it. And we'll let Paul share that.
Hold on one second. Okay, you should have the site plan on your screen.
Got it.
Okay, let me see if I can zoom in up plus. Okay. Can I zoom in on it?
Right at the top. Yeah, scroll to the right
Yeah.
and there'll be a plus.
uh,
Actually, more to the right, Paul. You'll see a minus and a plus.
I'm looking for it. It's I think it's behind. Can I close that out?
Actually, no, just
There we go. I got it.
There you go, right there.
I got it. Yeah. Let me bring that up. There you go. Okay, based on our last meeting, we did a little bit of revisions on the locations of certain things. We were going to hold 8 feet off the rear of the building as a landscape, grassed area. And we put in some plantings and relocated some of the plantings and put in some new trees. I've been in touch with James Emmanuel, who's doing the landscape work for us. He's actually on vacation this week, and we didn't get to finish this up, but he'll be back on Monday, so I can get a final planting amounts and the actual locations and so forth on the plan. But I think you could possibly make that as a condition. So we did show the location of the new hay bale line, and also the proposed fence, which will start right here and run up along, and then behind the hay bale, and then come back down right along the drainage easement.
Oh, could you just again show the fence? Is it, where's the fence relative to the hay bales? I'm sorry.
The fence will start right here in the corner,
I see.
and then run up along right up to there's an existing 10-inch tree,
Okay.
and then right along the tree up to the hay bale line, and then along the hay bale line over to the easement line, this is the drainage easement, and then back down to the intersection of the easement.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell on that plan, and that's what it does, Paul.
Oh, well, it's in color, so it should show up as a is a green, sort of tough to see. You'd have to expand
So
up on
I
it.
put
Oh,
But
yeah,
it
yeah,
in
yeah.
my office with the color printer, and again, I'm looking at it, and it's very hard to see.
Yeah.
okay,
I see the green.
I mean, what I can do is I can do a separate blown up area of that plan and submit that in showing the actual
That'd be
location.
great. Yeah, it's very hard to make out where that fence is.
Yeah, it's tough when it's on a 20 scale and you're trying to work in a small area.
Yeah, because it's pretty much following the hay bale line. for the
It
most
runs right
part.
along the hay bale line.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's
So
over.
the size and type, I've talked with the owner. There's the possibility would be like either a metal fence or a metal post with the laminate on it, like the plastic. And we'll either do like a chain link, not a chain link, but a hoop chain, like a double row of going along there, or we might use granite posts.
Okay.
So those will actually last a lot better than putting in a cedar fence and
Yeah, agreed.
that, so.
Mhm.
I also expanded out the planting area to outside the 25-foot buffer. That'll be in this area in here, right along the swale. Then again, on the opposite side, right in this area here. So that basically accounts for the lost area of the 25-foot buffer between the house and the hay bale, this area right in here.
Now, Paul, how did you pick out the locations for the two trees? I mean, what was the design criteria for that?
Well, there one's a pretty fat wet one, so that one is be close towards the water's edge.
Yeah,
That's this one down in here.
yeah.
And then this one's a little bit closer towards like but it's still a wettish area, but it's a little bit more upland. I've talked with James, we were going over the different plot trees, and he's gonna come back to me on the specific ones. I did show a box elder
Yeah.
and one of the other ones down there, so.
So that one tree, Paul, how far away from the house is that? I'm just thinking of when it gets to a mature height, how big would
It's a
it be?
it's a medium height tree, so it's gonna be probably about another 8 feet, so it's 8 feet off the deck, 16 feet off the house.
Okay,
Paul, I remember we did ask for the deck to be squared off.
We kept the deck the way it is. The deck is the same where it is now, is because we need a second means of egress, and that's actually coming out of the dining room. The next door is a bedroom.
Okay. Was there anything else that we asked for?
The other thing we talked about was the possibility of doing a conservation restriction.
Right.
We can, I mean, I can draw that plan up and review it with either Rebecca or Elaine prior to its finalization. That could be part of the written into the deed and recorded at the registry.
And what would that conservation restriction say, Paul?
Basically, that it's a no-touch zone. That, you know, you can't go in there, you can't go in there and cut the trees down, bushes down, put in grass, fill,
yeah, that would be important.
Or move the fence?
move the fence.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that.
But I mean, we can, that's what I'm saying, we can work on the language to be put into it.
okay.
We
Is
can work
that-
with, well, we can work with the attorney, we can work probably most likely with Brian McGrail, because he was the attorney of,
And
We
can
worked
we
on this
can we
with
put
the-
in, what we normally put into order of conditions, what no one follows in terms of maintaining that area, you know, in terms of, I mean, I don't know, what you can do there. So it would cover the whole thing of what you can't and can't do there. Right?
yes, yep. Yeah, because actually within that area is the drainage easement, so there is maintenance on the swale and so forth, that it be kept, you know, clean and natural debris, so things can flow through it. So again, if there's something in the that area that can be cleaned up or something, then yes. Other than that, there'd be no modification to the grading or the plantings.
So isn't a conservation restrictive hard to get processed or
Well,
something?
it's not, Paul, you're not talking about a formal one. A
No,
formal
no, no, I'm just, it's basically something to be written into the deed,
deed
so
restriction.
as, a deed, basically it's a deed restriction.
It's good for 50 years unless you renew it every 50 years, so
50 years or 15 years?
50.
50?
Yeah.
I won't have to worry about it.
Maybe not.
All right. I think that's everything we asked for.
I think so.
So you're gonna submit, Paul, once you talk with when the landscape comes back,
Yes.
planting.
Yes, I will submit in a formal plan with the types of plants where they're actually going to be, the ones we're using. And then we can go over that with Rebecca or Elaine in regards to that and the trees and so forth. And we'll also come in with a plan a little bit more just on this area alone, showing the location of the fence and also a restriction area.
And then you'll have Brian draft up a deed, the deed.
We'll have Brian, yes, we'll have Brian work on the language to be drafted to become part of the deed for the property and the restriction on that portion of the lot.
And who can, all right, we'll work on the wording of that.
So,
So
sorry?
now, Paul, the only thing
Yes.
I'm thinking about is that you really, you show some spot grades, but how do you indicate that there's going to be no alterations to the ground in that area? I mean, is that something you put like a different?
Well,
I mean,
I have
just
the
to me, it
solid,
kind of- Go ahead.
sorry, the solid lines, like this one right here,
Yeah,
that's the
That's a-
proposed grade.
that's
that
a
runs
proposed
along.
grade.
Yep,
Okay,
then everything else that's going to meet the grade is going right along here, so there's a 5-inch difference roughly to a foot difference right here from the contour to this grade. It's 189 to 190. And then these are all existing grades, and we won't be modifying them.
okay.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commission?
No.
Any comments or questions from the public? Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Ken?
Wait, so I'm sorry, could I interrupt just
Sure.
before a final vote is taken? A question for Paul.
Mhm.
Is this planting plan and the landscaping list and the conservation restriction going to be submitted within 21 days?
Yes.
It is, okay, thank you. All right, that's all I had.
And we'll add those items as conditions. Since we'd be,
Gotcha. Noted.
yeah, since
Well,
we'd
what-
be accepting,
Well, why would we issue the order until we get those things?
well, we could condition those things in the order. We can do either. I mean, we could wait, or we could condition those items.
Why not just issue it at the next meeting?
Well, that's assuming all those items are gonna be done by then, Judy. So after I'm sorry, Elaine, just to clarify, so after the public hearing is closed, we have 21 days to issue an order of conditions?
Correct.
Yes.
Again, I'm gonna propose that we don't issue the order until we get what we want. But that's just me.
Paul, you think you could have those items for the next meeting?
Yeah, I'll have them submitted in, yes.
All right, so then, in that case, we could continue and then close at the next meeting, if that's amendable.
When's
Yeah,
it, sorry, what's the date of the next meeting?
March 10th.
Okay, I won't be here March 10th, but I'll make sure the stuff is submitted in.
Okay. that way we would not have to add those special conditions. Because obviously if we close, we can't accept any new information unless it was conditioned.
That's fine.
So, okay, we'll do that. We'll continue until March 10th.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We do have about 15 minutes before the next public hearing. We do have some other business to attend to.
Would you ask if Matt Callahan is here? He has a request for tree removal. I think you addressed this at a previous meeting and you wanted more information.
Yeah.
I sent you that information. There's a plan. And Bob, I sent a lot of photographs to you. And I spoke to him this afternoon. He said he's driving, but he
Yes, I'm-
wants to participate. Oh, you're here. Okay.
Yeah, I am on the call. Sorry. Yeah, and I stopped and hopefully you can hear me. I'm just in a loud place.
Yeah, and we can hear you, Matt.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, Elaine, let's see, is it, I'm looking for the photos.
I sent about 20.
Yeah, I see photos for 200, 94 Butler, 2 Clyde Court.
It
Oh,
would
I
have
got
been,
it. I think I have it. Wait a minute, hang on here.
all right.
Sorry, that's not it either.
I might have sent them to your cell phone. Let me see what I did. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm not seeing those photos.
When did you send them?
I sent them 4 or 5 this afternoon.
Oh, okay.
To everyone or just Bob?
Just Bob, because I figured he'd put them up on the screen.
Yeah, no, I've
Okay.
got 334, the 200 corner power pictures, and the next one was at 549. And that's a drainage to the lake email. I don't see
Okay.
anything in between.
Can you check your cell phone? They might have gone in there, because that's what I know how to do. Let's see if I can find it. Hold on. Yeah,
No,
Bob, you know where they are, Bob? I think they're on your cell phone.
yeah, I don't see them as an email or a text or how.
They
I
would
don't
have been embedded in a text with messages.
All right, so you know what? It didn't come through. It maybe
Didn't come
exceeded-
through?
No, it may have exceeded a file size or something.
All right, hold on. I will send a couple right now. I'll send a bunch of, I'll send you a bunch of text.
Yeah, you know what though, Elaine, can you send it to the email? It'll be easier to deal
Hold
with.
on. I don't know how to, let's see if I can do that. You know, I think I sent it to the text because that's what I know how to do. So, all right, let me, forgive me, everybody, where we have a little bit of a lesson here. Okay, I've got the photos, Bob. I have them in my, how do I send them to your email address?
So if you go to your photos and you have an Apple iPhone, or what do you have?
I have an Android.
Okay, I can't help you there.
How about if I
you
send it
might
to
wanna
my
select
Gmail?
them. What's that?
What?
You should be able to select the pictures and then either forward them, or you should have some sort of, I don't know, prompt to be able to email or choose.
All right,
from
I'm gonna try putting them on Gmail. Just a minute, let me reselect these pictures and you should have them very shortly if all goes well.
Is it all right if I jump in here and give sort of a
Yeah,
Oh,
roundabout?
please.
Okay. Matt Callahan here. Yeah, I'm a new owner, or one of two other guys, owner of 138 Salem. We just passed papers probably a month or two ago, and basically the property externally really has had zero maintenance or landscaping or just cleanup for probably, I would have to say, anywhere from 10 to 20 years. So there was a lot of overgrowth. I don't think the leaves have ever been raked. There's a lot of junk in the backyard. So we're in the process of me and two guys that own it, because it's a 4-unit building. We're in the process of renovating it, cleaning it all up, hopefully condoizing it. We do have family that we may have earmarked to go there, or we're going to individualize them, and then obviously have the option to sell if we elect to. But in the process here, with regards to the cleanup and repair of the property, because it's in dire straits right now. Trees are obviously an issue right out of the gate, which I saw. There's been some down branches here and there, nothing substantial, but all the trees, if you end up looking at the diagram that I sent over from Hayes Engineering, John was kind enough to show the shorefront boundary lines and everything, and then all the trees he marked, which is great. But I want to point out that the corner of my house is 5 feet 10 inches to pretty much the line of the neighbor, and I have consent of the neighbor to my left to take out trees. It's Nick and Rocco Leo, and good guys. They're trying to do some development to the left of me. I'm not really sure what they're doing, but the trees are sort of, I don't know, you guys would be better judge than I would. They look like to me that they've somewhat lived their life, and they're growing crookedly, and you okay? God bless you.
Sorry.
That was a sneeze. But anyways, it looks like they've just grown in, ways that Mother Nature chooses to grow them, and they're all crooked and encroaching the house. So what me and the guys that own the place, what we envisioned was, if we were to remove all these trees that are really close to the house, a batch of them all in the back, and we're more than willing to do some putback, whether it be some shrubbery in the back or trees or what have you. It's just that these trees are such randomly placed in the backyard, and it's such a small piece of property. We just wanted to sort of clear it out and possibly enhance the property to some degree. I'm all for preserving conservation and preserving the wildlife back there. But yeah, that's all we're looking to do. And we had a bunch of them in there because they're all super close and bunched together.
Hey,
So that's-
Matt, sorry. Hey, John Oberon was going to update the drawing to show us which ones may be jurisdictional or not.
Oh, okay.
You do that?
You didn't have that? I thought Elaine may have pushed that over. I sent
I
it to
did.
Elaine.
I sent that to you this afternoon.
Oh, okay. Do you have that? You guys don't have that right now?
I'm looking again for it.
Okay. Because I think I may have that on my email, and I could.
Yeah,
I'm on my daughter's phone right now.
yeah, I don't see that one.
All right, let me see if I got it, because John sent it to me. I'm just I pulled off to a restaurant, and they got a little side room built set up for me. Let's see, John. Riverfront. Oh yeah, I think I got it right.
Elaine, do you have that email?
Okay, is there?
It wouldn't be on my cell phone. Hold on, I'm still sending pictures, but I have it here. I may take a screenshot and send it over. As
Or
soon
if
as
you
I
just
get
want to,
this done.
or we could just forward the email to me if you'd like.
I don't have it on my cell phone. It's on
Oh,
the computer at work.
Okay.
I have an email. What email could I send this to?
You could send it to mine.
Okay, could you just give it to me? I just don't
Yeah.
have it.
So it's Bob dot Romano at gmail.com.
Could you spell Romano?
Yeah,
R-O?
ROMANO
Okay.
at gmail.com. Oh, Elaine, your pictures are coming through now.
Excellent. Okay, it's nice when things work.
Oh, okay. Let me see. I think that's it.
I'll start sharing the pictures.
Bob, did you get my email by any chance?
I think it's just coming through now.
Great.
Yes, actually, wait a minute. No, I have another one from Elaine with more pictures.
Oh, okay, great. And if you look at my diagram, you see how tight those trees are to the house. I mean, it's just, yeah.
All right, I'm
Do you have a picture you're putting up?
gonna show some pictures right now. Just trying to see which is the best to share. All right. All right, here's two of the trees. Again, until we see John's plan, we're not sure what's jurisdictional and what's not.
You see it on the diagram by any chance?
I'm still waiting for that to
Okay.
come through.
My email, you're saying?
Yeah, haven't seen that yet.
Because the diagram shows it's just outside of the line of the trees. There may be one that's outside the shorefront line, but the rest of them, I have to say, are all within, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to, I'd say the furthest away would probably be 20 feet away. I'm not really sure, but it's relatively close to that line. And
Matt,
it's just go ahead.
Can you see what I'm sharing, Matt?
Oh yeah, I can.
So this tree, we see this one leaning
Yeah.
to the left.
Yeah.
Got two trees here.
They look like they're leaning away from the house, though.
Yeah, those ones appear to be, yeah. I mean, that corner is, again, 5 feet, 10 inches. Yeah, and that's on the other side of the dumpster. If you're looking at it from the street, I can see that. And that one is, yeah, it's right. That one actually, the ones that are close to the street actually go out over the street. I don't know if Elaine got any pictures of that. But that was something that was obvious, could be problematic, I guess, just with the town alone.
Okay, here's another shot looking up.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
sent that to give you an idea of the health of.
Those trees don't look bad. I mean, are those the ones you want to take down?
Yeah, yeah, the tops of those trees go, yeah, it's just, they go up and out over the house, sort of, kind of. And those are the ones I wanted to. Again, I know they probably look good. Oh, that's the one out towards the street. Yeah, that's right.
So we don't have a plan showing the resource area or the buffer zone?
I wanted what the original, the shorefront area.
No, I tell you, Jim, they are at the outer edge of the 200-foot riverfront area.
Oh,
And there's
wow.
either one or two houses between them and the river.
Okay.
And
So-
isn't there a street off, is it on the other side of the street? Because I've always wondered where exactly it's measured from. So it's on the other side of the street, right?
No, 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 it runs perpendicular to the street.
Okay. Because I'm trying to go from this outer line to where, yeah, I don't know, maybe I should ask John where the closest point would be.
Yeah, we need that, we need the drawing from John.
Hold on, you know what I'm doing? I brought it home with me. It's in my folders here. So I'm gonna take a screenshot and send that. It'll come right over.
Bob, you didn't get the email?
No,
Jeez, that's weird. I'll go for it again.
I think I've gone through all the photos. Yeah.
Send file.
How many are you thinking of taking down?
Well, it was probably, I don't know, 10 to, I think, 12 trees, somewhere in there. I'm not sure the exact number. Gmail, let's see, Gmail. Because it was, when I had Keith's come out, the tree company, and I asked them, and they said, well, based upon the rate, we can do this many trees. And I'm like, okay.
Okay, Bob, I just sent you a screenshot of the plan.
Okay.
They're all oaks, by the way, for what that's worth. They're all like pin oaks.
Oh, shoot. No, that's not the one. Someone I sent to Jones. Shoot.
All right. I just got it on my phone. I should get it in my email any second now.
Bob, I may have sent you the one I sent to John originally.
All right, I've got Elaine's coming through shortly.
Oh, wait, I think I got it now. Oh, yeah, I got it now. Hopefully this is the right one.
All right, Elaine, I bet yours, Elaine. Let me share that. It's kind of hard to see, but we will give it a shot.
I-
All right. A little difficult to see, but here's
Oh. Good.
the photo from Elaine.
Okay.
Can you rotate it?
I don't know if I can rotate that. No, I can just zoom it.
Okay, well, I
All
don't
right, so
know.
let's zoom in a bit.
Bob, any chance you got my email?
Not yet.
Okay, I think I think I'm doing this off my cell phone, so the print is small. But I think on the right-hand side, you can see a dotted line. That's the
Yep.
200-foot riverfront. Okay,
it.
so those are the trees that are in, and it looks pretty much like almost all of them. Certainly the ones near the street, and I can't pull it up to see the ones in the back, but it looks like pretty much all of them are.
Yeah, I can scroll down to see the ones in the back. I'm
And
not
then
sure.
you can see the shoreline, right? The 200 buffer zone.
The
line.
dash line, so everything.
Yeah,
Everything to the left of that line is in.
Yep.
And to the right is out. So it looks like there's one small tree that might be out up here.
yeah,
The rest are all in. So
correct.
that would mean they would all be jurisdictional. Everything that's showing.
Yeah, how many trees are you talking about? The ones with the triangles on them?
Yeah.
So some of them are pretty far away. Why would you have to take those down?
It's just that if some of the pictures, the trees were just growing crooked and they seemed like.
I know, but isn't that kind of Mother Nature? The way a tree.
Yeah,
grows?
no, absolutely. I agree. It was just one of those things where when I had the tree guy there, he was just, if I'm here for the day, we can take out all these. And I'm like, yeah, sure, if it's possible. And again, I had to call you guys in order to do so. So
Yeah.
I can understand the ones further away. The ones all on the left side are all, those are just tight to the house. And if you got next to them and looked up, you'd see the limbs would go up and they sort of dangle in the direction of the house. And like I say, I mean, my attitude is I just want to remove them. And then, like I say, I'm more than happy to put trees back because I'm a big fan of that. Just to sort of try to maintain the vegetation.
I mean, I look at that. I don't think you should be taking them all down. I can see some of them are very close. There could be a problem.
Right.
Yeah, like where he's got his pointer now. I'm sure those are close.
Yeah.
The ones out
right
by
in there. And how about the front ones too?
they're not even going towards your house. They're heading towards the street. Unless you think it's going to fall down.
Well,
Is it uprooting itself?
Pardon me?
Is it kind of uprooting itself? Is it?
It's just, I mean, I'm no expert. They just, they just, well, there's one that's hanging out over the street. Again,
Yeah,
we just,
yeah. Okay.
And these ones, I'm not sure if these are proposed to come down, but they're like on the edge of the grassed area.
that's the one with the little tree house in it. Those are the furthest ones away.
Would you be looking to take those ones down also?
Yeah, I wanted to. I'd like to, but obviously if it's something that, if you guys don't think I should, then I'll leave them. I don't have a problem. It's just,
Can we
I'd-
ask Elaine for her take?
Those trees that you're seeing there, I measured, are about 40 feet from the back of the house. The other trees, as you come along the side, are about 20 feet. And I believe I included some photographs in there that give you a good visual of how I took some that showed the trees relative to the house.
Yeah.
All of those trees are mature trees. I took pictures of the canopy.
Right.
Yep.
See how healthy the canopy looked, because I thought that that would be a good way of gauging their health, especially in winter. I'm trying to think of anything else. So they're healthy. They're healthy.
Quick question, Lane. Do you have an idea how tall they are? Because I know they're pretty high.
Well, I usually estimate a full-grown tree at about 60 feet.
Okay. Yeah, that's sort of where I had it at.
Elaine, do you recommend that we cut down?
would never recommend a tree. be
I know,
cut
I
down.
know.
But I can tell you,
Shame
if
on
you
you, Tressa.
go towards
I'm
the
sorry.
I know,
Good
that was
question.
a test, right?
I think some of them are easier than others. There are trees that are 40 feet away where the tree house is.
Right, that's
There's
in the
a tree
back.
in the front, that's in the back, and they're about 40 feet away. And others are a little bit closer. The one that it's leaning over towards the street, the first one I think you saw,
Yep.
that seems to me that that would be an issue. It's pretty far over. Now,
Mhm.
what we have stopped doing is we have stopped getting letters from arborists about the health of the tree or whether the arborist feels it's a danger in something like this, particularly because the arborist has already been out there in a situation where you find the decision to be difficult. You may want an arborist's advice.
Mm.
That might help you make your decision.
Mhm.
But I can tell you from looking at it, with the exception of the tree that's leaning over the street, they all seem to me to be in good health.
And this guy's got something going on here with a major branch missing and a hole.
Yep, an arborist could give you an idea of maybe whether this is an issue or not.
And it could be rotting in there. Who knows? I don't know. But that I could see there being an issue with that tree.
Yeah, that corner, again, they just seem to be really close. So, I mean, if ideally, I would like to, obviously, the trees, as you come from the street and go alongside the house, in around the corner, those would be ideal to, for, I mean, that's what I'd like to have taken out. I know, that would be up for discussion for you guys, whether I can do that or not. But that's what if I had my wish list, that's what I'd do. Again, I have no problem putting whatever trees back. I'm all for that, or it's a more of a controlled situation where I can, space them away. Obviously, they'll be smaller. They can take, now I can train the tree and prune it correctly so it grows more straight up. And, that's what I was thinking. I've never been honestly in a situation where I've taken requests to take trees down in a zone anyways. Normally I just show up and say, okay, we'll take care of that one and that one, the ones are all crooked, and then put back trees. Yeah. And there's a lot of vegetation way in the back too. I don't know.
Yeah.
Could put more stuff back there. Or,
Yeah, I can see a lot of younger trees growing in the background.
yeah.
I would personally, I think, I look at the trees at where the pointer is now, those two trees, I think those could come down, and probably the one that's leaning over the street. But I mean, that's good habitat area in there with the trees, and
These are the closest to the house, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I think
And not to interrupt you, but the other thing that's really obvious is there's quite a root system. I don't know if you saw that, Elaine, when you're there, but there's quite a root system in between the house and the trees. And, I don't know if that poses more problems, whether it be disrupting foundations or what have you, but I got to do something in order to, I don't want any liabilities where people are tripping and falling over that stuff. I'm going to have to do something. And I know covering up roots or stumps and stuff, I know that's problematic for trees. So
This one is probably very close, I guess, right? How close is this tree to the house roughly?
that one on the corner, let's see, if I was to take a guess, I would say within 10, 15 feet. Yeah, I would say it's those ones on the corner are definitely within 15 feet of the corner.
Okay. You can
If
see
I
the
was to take a
pavement
stab.
lifting up here and tree leaning to the left.
And that one right there is, I would have to guess, is somewhere around 20 feet from the corner. I would have to say somewhere in there. It's a
That sounds
little bit
about
further
right,
than
looking at this.
Yeah. And I'm just going because I know with John, I was trying to figure out parking and stuff like that. We were measuring, and that's the only way. I mean, I didn't measure exactly.
And this probably has pretty extensive root system under it. It is leaning and lifting,
Yeah.
lifting the pavement.
Yeah, so with regards to that, I'm gonna take all that out and replace it all, put back something more appropriate. Again, it's the house is in shambles externally, internally, and all these things need to be addressed. And it's just a shame because, those trees, I'm sure early on, if they were pruned and, trained a little better, I think it would have been a better situation, I guess, and maybe some topsoil added so it isn't so problematic. It's just that going back there, it's not easy. And again, I'm sort of in a non-conforming pre-existing lot. I don't have room for parking, and everything about this house is just sort of not been easy up to this point, but we're managing. We're trying to do our best.
I mean, maybe what makes sense is kind of Elaine to go back out and say, maybe we can save X trees back here and maybe look to take, this cluster here or something, or this guy in this cluster. Of course, you would have to do some replication of whatever did come down. But I mean, this does look like it could be problematic. It's leaning, it's lifting. I don't know. What does everybody else think? Does that make sense to maybe have Elaine go back out and identify which trees are truly a potential hazard here and which ones could be saved?
Yeah.
Can I weigh in on this for a minute?
Yeah,
Okay, the ones that are 40 feet away, unless they have a defect you cannot see, would be farther away than what the commission usually permits. The one in the front of the house that is bent over, seems to me that should go because it is so bent over.
right. This one right here? Or the one near the street?
The one near the street.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the one, but it's close to it.
So those are the two parameters that are easy. There's one at 20 feet, but the rest of them, the ones that are in that gray zone, it would seem to me that the best way to make that decision would be to determine which have a problem and are a danger. I know we don't do that anymore, but because we determine they're all dangerous, but this might be just the circumstance to make an exception to that policy and get a certified arborist to weigh in and help clarify what should be and what shouldn't be left or go.
Yeah, I agree with regards to the it being a concern, because the one thing that is concerning is say if the developers to the left of me decide to take out all the trees they want, being in outside of the shoreline zone or the shorefront zone, and then all the trees that I'm left with are completely exposed. That makes me nervous, to be honest with you, and that's the main reason why I would like I think I talked to Elaine about this originally when we met out there, is that they make me nervous. The trees leaning and blowing around. So that's the main reason. And so that's all where I'm coming from. And yeah, you're right. I'll be more than happy to have an arborist come out and take a look at things. But yeah. So
can I ask a question then? If a tree, as we're dividing things in categories, if a tree is not leaning over, do you have a problem with it? Or is it the ones that are leaning over you have a problem with?
yeah, the ones that are within striking distance of the house, yeah, I have a problem with it. It makes me nervous. That's just, my own personal.
At 60 foot height, if you wanted to take out every tree that was within striking distance of the house, you'd clear your entire backyard. So my question is, Is it that the trees are leaning that's a problem to you? If a tree were straight, would you have a problem with?
Um, I guess not. I mean, it's just, even if the way I see it is, if even if the tree was straight and looks really healthy and it's going straight up and doesn't seem to be a problem, it being close to the house, I mean, it's just a matter of time before the tree will topple and fall. I'm not sure of the life of trees, especially close to a house, and don't know, you know, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a tree specialist. I mean, I've seen a lot of horrible things happen with trees that always thought were healthy and fall and drop and what have you. And fortunately enough, I've never seen anything really get damaged or anyone get hurt. But I just, in general, when they're close, I would just like to remove them. That's just my
Okay.
own personal. I mean, again, I'm no expert. I can't. I don't know what the future holds. I don't know the life of a tree. I just know when there's been times where I've been out at other job sites where when a batch of trees get taken down to one side or each side of trees, all of a sudden they get more exposure, and then they more likely to get hit by wind or the elements, and they're now doing different things than they've done their entire life. That's just from my experience. So that's why I would like to take them out. I mean, it's not going to be cheap for me to do, and obviously if I did put back, I understand the expense and willing to take that on and everything, but it's more of peace of mind. And you know, these are condos. I might have kids living there, and I got a big tree, and it's a windy night. Yeah, it I know it wouldn't sit well with me. So that's just my thought, and that's my only intent. Believe me, I love, I'm an outdoors kind of guy, and I like trees and everything. I just get nervous.
So by that standard, you would be clear cutting your backyard.
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you think those back trees are healthy and they're good and they're gonna, they're
40
real.
feet away and they're 60 feet high.
Yeah, but that would be I would now nothing's coming out behind those trees, so those trees are more likely not to be affected. The guy again, if that was to fall perfectly, right from the root ball straight at my house, yeah, that could reach, but that's not that's less likely than the ones I would assume that are 10, 15 feet off the corner, in the like the one out in the front there, which and the reason why I think that's going out and jettisons out, I think there may have been some pruning from the town at one point in time, and that's why that sort of grew out like a big L out to the side. I'm just guessing, but yeah, the ones way in the back, yeah, they don't make me as nervous. But like I said, when the tree guy was there, he says, "I'm here for you got me for the day. These ones can go too." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. It looks like it grew."
I suggest, I'm sorry, since I think we've heard, a homeowner, I think we should move this along.
Okay.
So can we get to a compromise or something? Maybe, work something out with the lane where we try to keep the trees in the back where that treehouse area is, that's farthest from the house. Trees that are clearly leaning like this, or this is the one we saw with the roots uplifting the driveway, and it was also leaning, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe easiest thing is for Elaine to just come back out and say, yeah, this makes sense. Let's keep these ones in back. Can you work with that? And then figure it out that way. I mean, I think we could probably work something out where we compromise.
Yeah.
Will a replication plan be required?
Yes. I would think so.
Thank you.
Say that again. What kind of
A
plan?
replication plan. What trees are going
okay.
to be replaced that
Okay.
the commission approves?
Okay. Would they go back in the same exact spots?
No.
Okay. They would just go somewhere on the property. That's
And there's alternatives too. It doesn't have to be trees, it can be shrubs. There's a guideline that we can send to you. So you would
okay.
know, so you know what you're up against. And
okay.
that may also influence, what you want to do too.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. So would I just get back with Elaine and we'd pick a day and go back out and figure things out, or?
Yeah,
do
I
I-
would be happy to do that. I'm in next Thursday and Friday. The only thing
Okay.
I would recommend is, because you've already had the arborist out there, if there are any trees that have hidden damage to them, that
Okay.
are rotted on the inside that we don't know about, it would be good to know what those are, because that would make a decision for that particular tree a lot easier.
Okay. All right. And is there an arborist that I would work with within the town, or do I just find my own?
Well, who did you have look at the trees before?
Well, I only had the tree guy come out, and he happened to be an arborist from
That guy
Keith.
would be fine.
Where
He's an arborist.
it's almost like it was conflict of interest in my opinion, but it was he was the one who sort of walked the lot with me a little originally, but again, I've never really ventured down the conservation road of taking out trees within conservation, so this is all new to me.
What tree company was it?
It was Keith's. Yeah,
I know
it's a-
Keith. I know
Yeah.
Keith. He's done a lot of work in town. If somebody from Keith's will tell you which trees are perhaps rotted in the inside, or have
Right.
a
or just
weakness to
problematic,
them,
right?
yeah,
Or
that would
in ones
that would make the decision easier.
Don't we
Right.
need to see that in writing signed by the arborist?
Okay, I could ask them that. Again, I don't know if it's conflict of interest. He is a tree guy. He is a tree removal guy. So I can ask that question. And if he's willing to put that in writing.
If you had an arborist, you would be better off to go that route, but
Okay, then I'll do just that.
And
'Cause
I
I-
have one favor to ask. You marked those trees with kind of brown string before.
Yeah,
If there are any that the arborist feels should come out, could you mark them in something else, like a red ribbon or
Sure.
a spot of paint, just to distinguish, so that we can see which is which when we're out in your backyard?
all right, sounds great. I'll definitely do that. All right, I'll be in touch, Elaine. Obviously not this week, sometime next week.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right then. Thank you so much, and I'll try to get on the next meeting, which would be March 10th. Did you say earlier?
That's correct.
All right. Thank you
Right.
for your time. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care.
All right, good night. All right, next up is DP 313608. It's 200 to 400 Porta Powered Parkway. Public hearing continued. Is the applicant here and ready?
So you have Scott Goddard here from Goddard Consulting. You also have Nick Delacava from Allen and Major. Mitch Mislanka from my office is here as well, and Matt D'Amico representing the applicants. We have a few things to present to you this evening, update you since the last public hearing. A few things of importance have occurred, so I think we'll be able to make good progress tonight and bring this thing much closer to a close. Nick's going to first present to you the revised plan that has been submitted to the commission, pointing out primarily stormwater management design changes that have occurred as a result in a response to the peer review from Matt Byrne. We also had a site walk, kind of a productive session, I would call it, maybe a week ago, with Matt Byrne, members of the commission, the town engineer, and our team as well, to discuss the peer review changes, and to sort of narrow down the list of outstanding matters for review. Our team has then supplemented the record with an updated riverfront area analysis to demonstrate compliance with the riverfront performance standards in direct response to Matt Byrne's comments at the last public hearing. So that was submitted, and he responded today with a peer review letter supplement that I'm sure he can comment on, but it seemed largely positive. And then finally, Dennis, who's one of the neighbors, who's had a lot of historical information about the history of the lake and its tributaries, both inflow and outflow. Dennis gave myself, a tour of the whole area earlier this morning, which was very helpful. I do believe our team, as well as Dennis, has a really good handle on the hydrology historically and presently as it relates to the lake overall. So though we are happy to kind of share some thoughts about those topics, I think largely those topics are best handled outside of the context of this public hearing as they relate to Town of Reading water management, Town of Wakefield water management, and some management efforts that could be handled by and on a Town of Wakefield property. So I would like to try to separate those discussions a little bit, although I think they're very interesting and useful to the overall benefit of the lake. And insofar as that goes, our project, we believe is doing a substantial play to our part to help the lake. And there's a few added elements, I think, that, again, outside of the context of this public hearing, that further things to the hydrology of that lake can benefit, that will deal with more of the two municipalities at play. So I think I'd like to leave it at that for the time being and let Nick just highlight the changes that have been presented in the most recent plan set.
Thank you, Scott. Again, for the record, Nick Delicava with Allen and Major Associates, the civil engineers for the project. Since we last met, we've made some updates to the plan based on some comments we received from the commission. We've eliminated all the wet basins around the perimeter of the parkway, and we've maintained some of the forebays with a reduced footprint compared to the wet basins. The forebays are still located at each of the low points around the parkway. There's 6 of them in total. I have a plan in a second here that shows them in a little bit more detail. But there's one here at the bottom left, the top left. There's 2 along the northern side of the site. We have the one on the top right and a 6th one at the bottom right. Now, this is a plan showing a comparison between what was previously proposed and what we're currently showing. So the red shows the locations of the previous forebays and wet basins. They occupy a footprint of about 12,000 square feet. The blue shows the new forebays that we're providing. It has a footprint of about 2,800 square feet, which is about a 76% reduction. And of course, we're limited as to what we can do to handle and treat the runoff from within the parkway itself. The low points are consistent with what's there today to maintain the compensatory flood storage around the perimeter of the site. So that's really the only updates we've made to the plan. Everything interior to the parkway remains unchanged. And one more thing before I kind of open it up to comments on these, we also provided some examples of previous projects where we've used similar BMPs. I know this came up at the last hearing. This is an example from Alpine Village in Billerica that was recently completed. As you can see, they have similar underground plastic chambered systems. They have an infiltration basin with a sediment forebay. Here's some pictures of it being constructed. This is as they were building it. This is it in its finished condition. You can see up front here, that's the sediment forebay that helps settle out all the majority of the TSS before it reaches the basin itself. And then they have their outlet that goes off into the resource areas. This is some of the chambers that were being installed on that project. These will be backfilled with stone, covered with the liner, and then paved over the surface, and there's parking above these today. This is an example on Mill Street in Arlington. We had not really a wet basin. It's called a wet water quality swale. It's a different type of BMP. It's kind of a hybrid between a wet basin and just a standard infiltration surface basin. This is a closer detail of it. And these are some pictures of the final condition. As you can see, all the pavement, there's a paved swale that runs off into some riprap. And then the water under storm events will have some ponding. It infiltrates into the ground, and any overflow, you can see it comes over into this other swale and out away from the site. And the last example is of a bioretention area. This is at the Wellesley Sports Center. In these parking landscaped islands, they were created as bioretention. Water would sheet flow into the riprap, into the planted vegetated bioretention rain garden, and then ultimately overflow under larger events into the underground chambered system below the pavement. I'm not going to show you another picture of the chambered system because they're all pretty similar to an extent, but this is a picture of those landscaped islands in the finished condition. So I'm sure there's probably more comments on some of the updates we made with the forebays. But other than that, I figure we can probably go over this first and then kind of get into the nitty gritty on the peer review memo that'll probably be handled mostly by Goddard Consulting.
Nick, could you just go over how the bioretention system works?
Sure. Do you want me to use the example on our site or that other, the last
Yeah,
project?
no, on your site.
So on our site, we actually have a very similar condition to the last example I just showed you. This is one of our bioretention areas in the landscaped island. The water from this surface parking area that I'm circling, all that will sheet flow into some low points. You can see the flush condition here. There's one on this side, one on this side, and then similar on to the northern side. Water will sheet flow into those bioretention areas. They'll fill up with water and then infiltrate into the ground. Under larger storm events where it's not being able to infiltrate in the ground fast enough, there are these, you can see in blue, there's these overflow outlets. They're essentially just little area drains in the green space. So as the water ponds to about a ponding depth of about 6 inches, they'll begin to overflow and they're connected back into the underground chambers. So that's one bioretention area. And then we have two more. There's one in this courtyard, and then there's a third one in this courtyard here. Both of these courtyard bioretention areas function the exact same way. So I'll use this one as an example. They handle any runoff from the green space. If there is any sheet flow from the grassed areas, they'll go into the bioretention area, but primarily they're there to handle roof runoff from the building. You can see these roof drain downspouts that will discharge into the bioretention area. And again, they can pond up to a depth of about 6 inches before they begin to overflow and discharge directly into the chambered system in the parking lot, running through the neighborhood driveway.
Okay, and one other question. Where it says elevation 86 to 87, is that a vegetated area around?
86, 87 here?
Yeah.
Yes. So the hatched area, everything in here is vegetated. The hatched area is what we use for sizing the bioretention area.
Yeah.
But obviously that'll be vegetated. And then the white space around it will also be green vegetated space. It'll be landscaped.
Okay, so is the bottom of that area all 86? And it just comes up a foot?
That's correct. Yep. So the finished floor elevation is up at 87.8.
Yeah.
The green space around it starts at 87. Typically you have an 8-inch foundation reveal around the building.
Yeah.
It goes down a foot to the bottom of the basin.
Yeah.
And the overflow is at 86.5. So under our HydroCAD modeling, The highest these bioretention areas get, even under a 100-year storm, is like 86.75. So it's still a foot below the finished floor,
Yeah.
and it's still below the high point in the grass area. So it should never reach these units.
Okay. And what kind of density do you have for the planting? I mean, and what type, is it trees in there too, or just, herbaceous or woody stuff, or?
Yeah, mostly shrubs, perennials. I'm not a landscape expert, and Alan Major isn't the landscape architect for the project. There'll be Copley Wolf, but there's no trees in the bioretention area itself. It would be planted with mostly shrubs.
Okay.
All right, so in an overflow condition, it makes its way into the buried chambers, under the paved area.
Yep. So I can kind of go through where the rain starts and where it ends.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep, please
that'd be
do.
good.
So all three of these bioretention areas, they overflow into the chambered systems. All the chambered system in this parking lot, as well as the one through the neighborhood driveway and the one in the parking lot to the right, they're all hydraulically connected. They're all at the same exact elevation. So as those chambered systems begin to fill up, they'll infiltrate what they can. But under severe storm events, of course, those are going to start to back up, and the water is going to have to go somewhere. And so that's where these three outlets come into play. There's a large 24-inch pipe that's going to be run underground between these two buildings, a second 24-inch pipe between these two buildings, and a third here. Those pipes overflow into a level spreader that outfalls into the larger infiltration basin along the back of the site. So I'll zoom out here for a minute. The infiltration basin, from my cursor to the left, it runs all the way through the site below like the walking bridges and the meandering path. It continues on all the way behind the buildings. And so that handles any overflow from the chambers. It also handles runoff, all the roof runoff from these, from building 1 and building 2 back here. And that is also designed to infiltrate into the ground. But again, we always want to have an overflow during the severe storm events. And at that time, we have the emergency spillway located here. And the basin will fill up, it spills over into the existing grass space on our site, and then on beyond our property where it currently discharges today. There's these 3 existing 8-inch drains that run below the existing path up against the lake, and those discharge directly into the lake. And so just to give you some reference, I don't have the existing conditions up right now. I can pull it up if we need to, but you can see in the background, it's shaded, approximate drainage area. That's existing drainage. It's kind of like I don't really know what you'd call it. It's almost like a wet basin because it doesn't really drain today because it's so low. It's down at like elevation 82. But what that does is it fills up and it overflows at this same exact point right here into the grass swale and into those HDPE drains into the lake. So we've maintained all the existing outfalls. We're not proposing any new discharge off-site. And then of course, so that those systems I just went over handles every bit of runoff interior to the parkway. Now, when we look at the parkway itself, because of the floodplain conditions, all the resource buffers, we're limited, as you know very well, what we can and can't do to manage the stormwater, treat the stormwater. So that's where these 4 bays come into play, to try to provide some sort of TSS removal for the runoff within the parkway.
Okay.
All right, sorry, let's just back up a little bit, and I want to take a look at the roof runoff in each area. I know some's going into the bioretention areas.
Yep,
Some looks like it's going directly into the underground chambers.
yep, that's correct. Yeah, so the way we've modeled this and the way it's gonna have to be designed, once we get a plumbing engineer on board and if and when we start going for a building permit, that'll be a discussion and coordination I have with them as to what portions of the roof are gonna be able to drain into certain areas of the site. So I could probably pull up do you want me to show exactly which portions of the roof are going where? Or can I just kind of briefly go over it?
You can kind of briefly go over it.
Okay.
Like, I see some areas that I'm not quite sure where it's going.
Yeah, so this roof's been split up, so pretty much down the middle, all along it. Portion of the roof will come into the bioretention. You can see some of these other roof drains, so the
Okay.
outer perimeter of the roof
Yeah.
will discharge directly into the chambered systems themselves.
Okay,
We have this roof from the amenity space going right into the area drain configuration that discharges directly into the chambers. We have a larger 12-inch garage drain that's going to handle all the roof runoff from the garage.
wow.
That'll go directly into the chambered systems. The small sliver along the front, those will be picked up by smaller roof drains. Those will go into the chambered system directly. And then similarly, as to the left side of building 3, this has been split kind of like down the middle where half of this wing is going to go through the flared ends into the bioretention. And then on the back side, they'll be piped directly into the system. Building 1 and 2, this is all built. This is building 1 as a whole and building 2 as a whole. All of those roof drains will be located on the back sides, closer to the lake, and all of that roof runoff will be discharged into the infiltration basin. None of the roof runoff from buildings 1 or 2 will go into the chambered systems. So as you can see, kind of everything's intertwined, hydraulically connected. Everything's sized based on the area that's going to it. So if we were going to send more roof runoff into the chambered systems, the bioretention areas would get smaller. But the way we approached the design was to kind of maximize the bioretention area in these courtyards. That was a preference from the town engineer. They like to see surface BMPs, like surface infiltration basins, bioretention areas, wet basins, rather than like underground systems that kind of could have the tendency to be overlooked if there isn't a proper operation and maintenance plan in place. So we maximize those bioretention areas, we sent as much roof to those as we possibly could in order to reduce the size of the underground chambered systems.
So the garage it's got what, retail on the first floor facing the lake or something? Yeah, right there. That's garage plus units or stores or something, right?
Yeah, I don't know the building footprint as well as maybe Matt D'Amico does, but the garage is multiple stories. So my understanding is there's no units in the garage footprint all the way up. But there is the units along the front that go all the way up.
But
So-
all the roof runoff from that is coming to those 2 leaders in the front of the building.
Yeah, I would
That's the
say
connection.
this kind of where my cursor is here,
Yeah,
this little sliver in here, that's what's been sized based on my recollection. I'd have to look at the model. But it's about that small area that goes into these 2 roof drains. And then this larger 12-inch roof drain handles runoff from the larger square here, which is the garage.
wow, that's a pretty big area.
Yeah, well, these systems are huge. I think we're providing something along the lines of like 50,000 cubic feet of volume just in the chambered systems.
Okay,
So the retention basins, what are they vegetated with?
These basins in the back,
Yeah,
Similar, I hate to quote anything because again, I wasn't the one designing the landscape and I'm not as familiar with it.
Okay,
But it's similar vegetation to what's in the bioretention areas.
okay.
And I believe Copley Wolf has shown, you know, trees along like the banks or at the top beyond the footprint of the bottom of the basin.
So do you anticipate that the bottom of the retention basin would be, have water in them, or you think that they're gonna be dry?
No, they should be dry. So what we've discussed with the town engineer and our details portray that any unsuitables need to be excavated and it will be replaced with Title V sand down to a virgin soil. And on top of that, we've established the seasonal high water table at 81, which I kind of went into detail at a previous hearing, but it was a conservative number. There was plenty of test pits out here that estimated the water table at a much lower depth, maybe closer to 77 or even 79. But we held 81 as the seasonal high water table, and we've maintained 2 feet of separation per the stormwater handbook requirements
Yeah.
from the bottom of every BMP that we've proposed.
Okay. Hmm.
So there are situations where roof runoff and road runoff or parking runoff are being combined into the underground storage chambers.
That's correct. Yep. And maybe I kind of guess where you're going with that. The roof runoff, of course, is considered clean by the handbook. There's
Right,
no pre-treatment required.
correct.
And so you can see here, there's an isolator row on all these systems.
Yeah,
It's that hatched row, and it's all the catch basins. They're all the deep sump, 4-foot sumps with the hoods, of course. Those go into the drain manhole, and that manhole goes into the isolator rows. And what those isolator rows are equipped with is a membrane that doesn't allow those chambers to infiltrate right away. They'll build up and they overflow into the second row in this case. And those have the stone bottom where it can infiltrate. Once it starts filling up the stone, the water can then fill all the void space around all the chambers.
so
And that's-
you'll get settling in the isolated chambers first before it makes its way into the stone bottom chambers.
Yep, in order to prevent clogging, and it also makes for a much easier maintenance. So when someone comes in here with a vac truck to clean these systems out, they don't have to clean the whole system. All they have to do is clean these isolator rows.
Got it. And that's all in the O&M plan?
Yep, it's all in the O&M plan.
Interesting. I think that's maybe the first time we've seen that type of approach.
Yeah, it's may not be as familiar with it, but it's a very common approach with these chambered systems. The manufacturer has a whole specific maintenance plan just for the isolator rows. They have specific details on how to construct them. They have third-party review and testing as far as how much TSS removal they can achieve. So all that information is in the drainage report, and it's all been reviewed by the town engineer. It may not be something you honestly dive into great detail on most projects, but I think because of the hyper focus on this development, it's obviously going to come up.
So where are the areas where you're gonna put the wetland seed mix?
So the wetland seed mix will be in all pretty much within the tree line, within the limits of our grading. And that's all been shown for compensatory flood storage to reduce the amount of flooding that the parkway receives on any given day after any storm, because it floods at pretty much every storm. So what we've tried to do is provide more storage beyond the parkway that can be reseeded with a wetland mix instead of just being planted as grass right now, and limit the amount of the floodplain that is within the parkway. So it's like this corner here will all be planted with the wetland seed mix, and this whole area through here will all be the wetland seed mix. It's really everything up to the wetland in some locations, not into the wetland. There's no disturbance to the wetland area itself, but the wetland seed mix will be planted pretty much along the tree line or up to the wetland itself. Like all these areas will be wetland seed mix.
And so what do you plan on doing? Putting wetland mix down every year? To keep, because I mean, doesn't it really just turn to like grass, like what you have?
Well, again, I'm not an expert on plantings, but I would imagine the wetland seed mix that they use, it's meant to be a wetland mix and not turn to grass.
I know, but I've never seen it really last long. What about putting plants in there? Couldn't you do plants as well?
Yeah, I believe we were showing some plants before with some of the wet basins, and we kind of dialed everything back to minimize any work in those areas. So,
yeah,
I mean, if it's something you'd like to see, I'm sure we could probably add some plantings back if that would.
I would actually,
appropriate.
I think the planting would be far superior than the wetlands mix myself anyways.
Yeah, I'd agree with you, Jim, on that.
So this is Mitch Maslanka with Goddard Consulting. So just to clarify, there is going to be plantings placed within the areas where it will be reseeding. Nick, maybe could I share my screen for a second?
Yeah, of course.
So this is our landscaping plan here. Oh, is it still up on the screen?
No, just a desktop.
So here is our plantings. So all of these small circles here are 2.5-inch caliper trees that are going to be planted in these areas where we're also proposing the seed mix. So there's quite an abundant amount of these plantings throughout the parkway on the wetland side of the parkway there. Also in riverfront area, we have a significant amount of plantings going in. And you can see these tees, those are transplants. So those are going to be transplanted back within the buffer zone, which
You
is
point to a
this.
T. I can't see where you're pointing.
So this is can you see where I'm pointing now? or no?
I see the pointer. I don't see any Ts.
Perhaps it's just tough to tell on this screen right now, but these 6 in a row here, those are trees that are going to be
Okay.
transplanted.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, okay.
And these circles with the squares are going to be the transplanted trees. So we're going to be taking these 2 out and plopping them right here.
Mhm.
So
Mitch, for whatever reason, your mouse isn't like totally calibrated with the zoom, but
okay,
we can see that the T's are right above the where building. It says building 3, and then the edge of building. Those are the transplants there, and they're getting transplanted to the other side of the parkway.
thanks,
Okay.
Matt.
But
And
we'll-
then there's larger plantings proposed here. These are 3.5-inch caliper trees right along the between the parkway and the building 3, the
Yeah.
parking garage, I should say. So there's a variety of different size plants going in, and you can see
But,
over here.
Okay. But other than trees, are you putting shrubs in? Or
So
anything like that? Or grasses, that, you know, like the ornamental grasses? I don't know if that's appropriate or whatever.
So we have the conservation seed mix proposed. So that has a wide variety of herbaceous plants, both upland and wetland preferable plants. And then we're really just proposing trees at the moment in these areas off to the side of Quannapow Parkway. Your tree protection policy, the easiest way for us to comply really was to just stick to trees rather than do trees and shrubs and stuff. But the amount of trees we're planting is quite significant. So I think that should be a positive thing for our buffer zone areas here. And then if it makes you feel better, there's a significant amount of shrubbery along that forest edge here. So if you give it time with that seed mix and seeding in from those shrubs, those areas will become naturalized in no time. And one other thing to note is this portion of BVW here. This was called out as wetland for its hydric soils and for primarily a specific plant called a rush, which is a grass-looking plant. So this area gets mowed over during the dry season, like summertime, just as part of this complex's typical mowing plan. So this area we're proposing just to stop mowing and let it naturally regrow. So we didn't propose any trees or shrubs or in there, but we are proposing to not mow that area anymore and let it regrow as a natural wetland.
Hey,
And then
Mitch,
this-
just keep in mind, this is Scott, that your cursor is invisible, so you can't just say this. I think the area that we're trying to point attention to is on the upper right-hand corner of your screen where there's that 90-degree bend in Quannapow Parkway. Just to the upper right of that, there's an indented area of wetlands. So we're allowing that to renaturalize. That's what Mitch was talking about.
Yeah, that's the area that's usually, underwater quite a bit.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yep, and then the area just beyond that wetland, it goes up on a bit of a hillside, but that's also mowed over just next to that wetland renaturalization area. So we're also going to let that just regrow naturally and monitor it for 2 years
So
to
that's,
make sure.
that's buffer zone area, right, that we're talking about?
Yep, so that there's wetlands and buffer zone.
So you want to mow the grass in the buffer zone as a way to,
You're gonna stop mowing it.
yeah. No, he said he's gonna mow it, didn't you?
I think he means the existing condition is kind of like a Scots grass mode condition. And what we're
Right now.
proposing there right now, yeah. What we're
Okay.
proposing is to renaturalize that, have the seed mix that he's describing and kind of have that,
But when you-
not continue that mode condition there. have it
Okay.
renaturalized.
Okay, so your renaturalized means you're putting seed down and hopefully it mixes in with the grasses and grows.
Correct, yep.
And what does that look like when it grows?
So I'm predicting that
curious.
wetland area, when it regrows, it's probably gonna have some silky dogwood, which is a shrub that's abundant in the area. It's probably also gonna have sweet pepper bush, which is another wetland indicator species that's abundant in the wetlands nearby.
And what's the
as for
time frame
trees,
for that to mature?
For full maturity for the shrubs, it'll, that probably takes 5 or so years for full maturity.
But you'll see, this is Scott, you'll see full herbaceous cover within one season. So the seed has a wide mix of species, herbaceous species that will grow up seasonally, some spring preferred, some summer, some fall. And over the course of one growing season, without that being managed actively like it is right now, and with the placement of the seed mix, you'll see 75% coverage of herbaceous material, and then the adjacent shrub material will continue to be able to thrive there.
So you will put some shrubs in.
Well, we certainly have, Mitch, is there proposed shrub plantings there, or is it, we're only just allowing the adjacent material to navigate its way in, right?
In those 2 specific areas, we're just going to let nature run its course.
Right.
Okay. Trying to think of what that means, what that would mean.
It more or less means we're leaving it alone, we're giving it a kickstart, stopping to mow it and allow it to function the way it's intending to.
Yeah, I think in general, that's a reasonable approach. It should go back to a normal, what you'd expect it to look like in its neighboring wet areas soon enough. And not to jump the gun or anything, but I think maybe the last comment that I had in the letter I sent out today was a recommendation that we monitor for invasives in these locations longer than the couple of years.
Yeah.
So we'd recommend that, but as far as getting that back to a native wetland plant community, I think it's a reasonable approach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as far as the invasive plants, are you proposing to keep removing them until you extinguish them or totally annihilate them? Or is this a one-shot, 1 year, you're gonna go out there and
Well, during our monitoring period, in the areas of our monitoring, we'll remove any that try to creep their way in, but we're not proposing an extensive, chase everything down all the way to the extent of property lines and even off site. There are surrounding areas of invasive plants that require a more broad scale effort of shared ownerships. So, we can only do our part, and that's what, we just want to see that these areas get off to a good start.
Okay, so is that what you meant when you wrote down that you were gonna get rid of invasive plants with the commission's approval?
Yeah, until we have a certificate of compliance, we'll monitor our areas of revegetation, keep them free of invasives, and get the ecosystem.
Well, you should at least go through 3 growing seasons, right?
Sure, that's fine.
Mhm.
Scott, what's the long-term plan for maintaining the bioretention areas and all the plantings that are proposed? Is there an operation management sort of plan for the planting a landscape plan.
The O&M plan covers that to maintain, to avoid plant mortality and replant as needed. Yep, that's all built into the O&M plan.
Yeah,
Yeah, and just to add to that, I mean, again, I'm not a landscape architect, but all these plantings should come with at least a 1-year life guarantee. So if they don't survive the first growing season, then they'll be replanted. And I imagine because of the amount of runoff they're going to be getting and the types of species of plants that are being planted, they should thrive, honestly, in a lot of these places because it's open and it's going to be receiving consistent runoff, rainwater. There's no expectations of any sort of drought. So I would think they thrive there. And of course, it's supposed to be a very nice development. So ownership, they're not going to want to let these plants die out. It's right in their backyard. It's right in their courtyards. They're going to want to maintain these and make sure it looks nice.
Yeah, I agree with that. Elaine, are you still here? Elaine is turned off right now.
Sorry, I'm here.
Is there anything you want to talk about?
Well, I did have a question about the lot size.
Okay.
I had looked at the plans and I had was going over the assessor's maps, just going over the notifications to abutters. And the two lots did not seem to have the same configuration to me. And it appeared to me from the lots that I saw in the assessor's map that this property owns land on the other side of the stream.
I can tell you that's incorrect. The assessor's lot is not, or for whatever reason, the lot lines on the assessor's map is not correct.
The assessor's map, so who owns that land?
That would be the owners of 100 Quantapug Parkway, which is RJ Kelly Corporation.
So the assessor's maps are not correct. Okay, all right.
Would it be helpful if I showed the existing conditions plan?
Yeah, sure. So forgive me, I've always gone on the, yeah, there we go. So I've always assumed that the Board of Assessors maps were correct. So do you have any documentation that the actual configuration of this lot is different from what is shown on the Board of Assessors maps?
We could provide you with, we don't own the property, but we can provide you with the deed that the previous owner received and, the plans associated with that.
Right. Okay, because it appears to me as if you're paying taxes on property that you don't have to pay taxes on. But yes, a copy of the deed would be very helpful. Thank you.
In terms of the lot area and as a sheer number, I believe they have it correct on the assessor's database. The sheer number of acres, it's just the lot lines on the GIS map for, I don't know if it was a rendering error on their part or what, but we'll follow up with that information regarding the deed and the plans associated with it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Welcome.
One other question I had. I'm still interested in how you got that number for the amount of pollutants in the lake. Do you remember that number we were talking about before? It was 1.7 or 176 or 167. I don't know what the units were. But you were saying it was a long process. I wanted to see how you got that number, what the process was. going there? Going home.
Sorry, I was muted. You're talking about the nutrient load?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I could walk you through it. It might take a little bit. I don't know how much time you want to spend on it, but
well, could you just send me a copy of it, of how you did it? I mean, you must have, did you put the number on there? Who assigned the number to that?
so assigned like the nutrient loading,
Yes,
it's assigned, so the nutrient loading is assigned based on the type of use for the development, and that those numbers are provided by the EPA. I have, let me see, I can pull something out. Can you see this?
yep,
All right, so this is from the Mass MS4 General Permit,
yeah,
Appendix F. It's all public information. You can find it
Yeah.
right online.
yeah,
I kind of dumbed this version down based on the tables that we use.
okay.
And so this is where the loading comes in. This table tells you, this
So
table
for
tells you the phosphorus loading based on the land
on
use.
land use,
So we figured out the existing loading by assigning the 1.78 pounds per acre per year of phosphorus based on a commercial and industrial use.
okay,
And then we similarly did the same thing, what would be expected for a loading based on a multifamily, high density residential use, which actually has a higher loading rating.
mm-hmm,
There's a very similar table. This is the nitrogen table. It's the exact same table with different numbers based on the nitrogen loading.
yep,
And then we go to this table here, table 3.5. We find the type of stormwater control or BMP that we're using.
yeah,
In this case, we have the subsurface infiltration, those chambers.
yeah,
We have the surface infiltration, which is the larger basin along the back closest to the lake. And then we
Yeah.
have the rain garden bioretention areas. So
okay,
for subsurface infiltration, they want you to use infiltration trench, and you'll see these tables in a second. And for subsurface infiltration, they want you to use, subsurface, they want you to use infiltration trench, surface basin, and rain gardens, they want you to use the infiltration basin. So these are the two tables. This is the infiltration trench. And then this is the infiltration basin. They're very similar with just different numbers. The way we figure out how much loading we're removing or how much pollutants we're removing from the runoff, we first need to figure out how big these systems are and how much runoff, the depth of runoff here, how many inches of runoff these systems can hold before they go into bypass condition and move on to say the next system, or just bypass and discharge into the lake, which would be the case with the larger basin at the back of the site. It's kind of the last discharge point. So we know the size and the volume that they can hold. Our HydroCAD model tells us how much volume's in there at any elevation. In this case, we look at the overflow elevation. So everything below that is going to be stored in those systems.
yeah, okay,
So for instance, if we can hold 1 inch of runoff, this line here, cumulative phosphorus load reduction, says if it can hold 1 inch of runoff, you're going to achieve 92% phosphorus removal from whatever watershed contributes to that BMP. And
Okay.
similarly with nitrogen, it's just a different number, 98%.
so it doesn't have, the plants don't have any value to this at all?
Yeah, so not on the EPA's, the EPA is based off of an infiltration trench in this case, so the underground chambers. And
Yeah.
your underground chambers have to be designed according to both the manufacturer's recommendations as well as what's outlined in the Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. So assuming you everything is based off of that. So assuming you design these BMPs, whether it be the bioretention, rain garden, as long as you design them according to the handbook,
Yeah,
they will then, they're then applicable to these tables. So the plantings get more involved with, the handbook describes what types of plantings and the shapes and sizes of the systems. And then this assumes, these tables from EPA assume that you've designed it according to the handbook.
okay, so if you use the plants that are in the, I know what plants you're talking about too, in the Stormwater Management Handbook in chapter 2, right?
Yep.
It gives you a whole list of plants, and because they know enough about those plants, they know what to expect for pollutant removal.
Yes, exactly. And again, I took EPA's word for it on this because, you know, they're a trusted source.
Yeah.
So I assume that, you know, when they were coming up with these numbers, they designed the BMPs that they were using for those studies.
Yeah,
I assume that they used based on what was outlined in the handbook. So that's kind of where the plantings come into play.
okay, so the planting is needed. So the only question I have is about one of those, somewhere I read, I think it was in some stuff that Bill Renault gave me. They talk about the density of spacing. So how does that, is that something you're gonna include in this as well, as how dense you plant the plants? And
That should all be shown on the landscape plans. I believe they show exactly where they are planting each shrub and tree. So
okay,
unfortunately, I can't really go into much detail there because I didn't design the plantings.
yeah. But I guess I didn't see in that chapter 2, for instance, for the bioretention area, which has that big list of plants. I didn't see in there anything about the density of how close you have to plant. Like, just like you're saying, it seems like you would have to have a certain density to meet the number that they're putting up there, you know, what's incorporated in that percentage, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, if you put two, if you had something that was 100 feet long, you put 2 trees in it, would that be equivalent to, you know, has to be a difference between putting like 50 plants versus 2 plants.
Yeah, to an extent. So a lot of the nutrient removal occurs with just holding the water back and allowing it to settle out and infiltrate into the ground, rather than, it's more of the volume of water that you're holding rather than the species and number of plants that you're putting in those systems. Of course, you need the plants. They provide nutrient removal. But a lot of it comes into play with just how much water you're actually holding in those systems. And as far as the density of the plantings in those systems, I mean, Copley Wolf is a renowned landscape architect. It isn't their first rodeo. And I mean, they'd be able to describe better the density, but I assume, you know, they took all of that into account and spaced the plantings as they should.
The only reason why I'm bringing all this up is in my mind, I was thinking, well, if the plants start to die off, they might not replace them. And then if they don't replace them, does it get to a point where we're not meeting our goal as far as pollutant removal? That's what I was trying to nail down. So, I mean, I would think that, you know, like you said, it's going to be a high-end development and people are going to want nice things there. And you would hope that they would maintain it and keep this, like, you wouldn't want someone to decide that they're going to take out all the plants because they don't like it. And then doesn't that have an effect on the design? That's all. That's what I was concerned about.
Yep. And I mean,
and we should talk about how you're going to ensure that doesn't happen. Well, I know you guys will be. I mean, if you sold the property to something, someone else might have a different idea.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that could be something that could be thrown into the conditions somehow. But I think the biggest insurance you have here is, again, that it's a high-end development, and these bioretention areas, these are people's patios right here.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
I know that. And that was another reason why I was worried about whether the retention basins had water in them, because I'm thinking about mosquitoes, and their doorways aren't too far away either.
yeah, no, these are designed to drain. So you can, like, these bioretention basins are up at 86. They're
Yeah.
5 feet above the seasonal high
Yeah.
water table. There should be
Yeah.
no reason these don't drain.
Yeah.
If they're not
Okay.
draining, there's some issues.
No, I get it. And are you putting in the 30 inches of, or, specialized material? I mean,
Yes.
Is that?
Yeah,
the
there's a
DPE?
bioretention mix that is detailed on the landscape drawings.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and per the handbook, I think it's like 80% of all the nutrient removal occurs within the first 30 inches of
Right.
soil.
Right.
Again, that's kind of where, again, that's where a lot of the
whole
nutrient
different-
reduction
the whole-
occurs. It's the soils, it's the volume of water that you're holding and
Right.
capturing.
It's a whole different science than what you guys would probably be doing. All right, I don't.
Do we, I know we got some late information this afternoon that many of us probably haven't even taken a look at yet. Do we want Matt to actually maybe go through some of his stuff right now? Or Matt, do you want to?
I'm happy to if that pleases the commission. Sure.
I think we should, Bob, yeah.
I mean, we are though, an hour behind at this point. So I don't know how much we can cover or how long that will take, but I guess why don't we start anyways, Matt?
Sure. And I do apologize that it came so close to the meeting. But I think to summarize, we've got sort of 3 main points that are in my mind as things that need to get sorted. That's the tree removal policy compliance, and just long story short, that they've clearly met that, and they did a fine job of demonstrating that in the recent submission. So I think that's, check that box. The next is work in riverfront area, and then the work in the buffer zones. So we had fairly lengthy discussions last time about both of those topics. The applicant has provided some response and also made some adjustments. And my letter sort of evaluates what we've seen to this point and responds to that. So with respect to work in the riverfront area, I think if I can just kind of bounce a little bit, Scott and Mitch and I just have professional disagreement over sort of the interpretation of some of the regulatory criteria for work in the buffer zone. At the end of the day, I think that's okay, because the regulations permit the commission to allow work that doesn't conform with certain criteria at 1058.5, when the project either restores degraded riverfront area on the site or contributes via mitigation on-site and off-site to improve conditions of the wetlands. So, and I think we're close to that. I think we're in good shape on that discussion. One of the things that Matt has expressed and kind of given me a connection to is this 1.3 $3 million commitment to, Matt, help me out with the program that,
Yeah, it's the Main Street. Clean Lake Committee had a list of projects that they outlined as priorities for improving the water quality of Lake Quantapowhat. The number one priority project being the Main Street. There's a major infrastructure project on Main Street, which includes a bunch of water infrastructure improvements and restoring some of the degraded conditions on Main Street. $1.3 million covers the local contribution that would be necessary for the implementation of that project. As part of this approval process, we've committed as a contingency of our approval to fund that $1.3 million. And that work's going to be conducted by the town engineering office, by the town of Wakefield, but will be fully funded, the local portion, by this development.
so that's, did anyone, I think that's, that's a very good sort of good faith effort toward fulfillment of the allowance of the Wetlands Protection Act regulations for riverfront area redevelopment at 1058.5G. And that's when the applicant proposes mitigation either on site or in the riverfront area within the same general area of the river basin, alterations may be allowed, so forth. So that's a good thing. And it brings the project into, one component of bringing the project into compliance for work within the riverfront area. The sort of bottom line recommendation comment is that the commission should probably get something written, something clear, sort of establishing so that the commission is clear what that relationship is, what that funding source is, kind of the time frame, and within your order of conditions, if you approve the project, to specify terms of that commitment, and including timeline for the mitigation measure and mechanisms to ensure its fulfillment. So, I think that's, as you move forward, if you choose, if you find that the project, in part because of this commitment, is in compliance with the riverfront protection section, that would be something to consider.
We're more than happy as well to include that as a condition for the, a condition within the order of conditions here.
Was that money to be spent on designing projects or for actual doing physical projects?
For physical projects that I think, the town engineering office has brought it to, a pretty high level, not high level, they've brought it pretty far in terms of design. But no, that would be for actually doing the project. And if for whatever reason that, the way we've kind of structured this agreement is, if for whatever reason that project doesn't move forward as a result of town priorities or whatever, that money would need to be used for other priority projects identified by the Clean Lake Committee for the betterment of water quality, in Lake Quantapowhat.
Can I ask you a question? Is there nothing now in writing where you agree to do that if the project goes through, Matt?
So I have something that I sent over to Lane fairly recently, early this evening, which is part of a legally binding agreement that we have with the Friends of Lake Quantapowhat.
Yeah, I thought there was something already.
Yeah.
Why isn't it an agreement with the town and not, why is Friends of Lake Quantapowhat, you have an agreement with them and not the town?
We viewed them as a very important constituency early on in this project. We were involved with them well before we filed anything with the town. As part of both of our approval process and the local level, we are including these kind of conditions, or we would propose to include these kind of conditions. With the ZBA, we'd be including this. With Conservation Commission, we would propose to include this kind of condition. So we're happy to do that.
In addition, as you're all aware, the existing conditions of the stream and the riverfront area that's currently mown, is fairly poor. And the current proposal includes mitigation via the proposed wetland seed mix and some plantings. They do mention, that Mitch mentioned some small caliber trees that would be planted. And in some of the response materials, they talk about herbaceous and shrub plantings. I think that this is a real opportunity to get some real good ecological restoration of that stream system. Elaine was pointing out early in the meeting before this hearing started, the way in which flow doesn't occur into the lake through that stream because of a blocked culvert at the lakeside. It is sort of a straight cut ditch, and the years of mowing and uncontrolled runoff or untreated runoff has, sort of really degraded that stream system. So, taking a step beyond just wetland seed mix, hydroseed, or, what have you, and, hoping for the best, this is a real opportunity to do a quality stream restoration, an ecological restoration of that stream system. I don't know the landscape, landscape architecture firm that I don't have personal experience with them, but trust that they're a good firm. They probably do this kind of work. There are lots of landscape architects that can look at a stream system and come up with a really improved condition over what you see out there today. And so this would be an opportunity to get a good ecological restoration of that system. From where it comes out underneath the highway to where it hits the lake, seems to be within the purview of this project. And I think that would be a good opportunity to get on the table and see whether or not that is something that the applicant is willing to entertain. And between those two pieces, a restoration of that stream and the contribution that Matt was discussing before, I think that really gets the project over the hurdle of coming into compliance with the work in the riverfront area. So you can kind of, as you get the opportunity to digest the letter, that's kind of the thrust of where I'm going after with those that piece. And then the last bit is the work in the buffer zone. I think that this is a bit of a sticky one because this is a redevelopment project. It's a large site. All things being equal, there could have been an opportunity to change the position of the parkway, get it out of the floodplain, maybe restore a 50-foot or even 100-foot buffer zone and still get a project. But I understand that the parkway is what it is, and there's little leverage the commission has to compel a change in that existing parkway. So that kind of puts the commission in a somewhat awkward position in that you could tell the applicant that you don't want any work in the buffer zone. You want that to just be renaturalized and you know, what's available, what's left of buffer zone should just be turned back to natural vegetation and let that buffer zone do its thing. And from the wetland protection ecological standpoint, that's what I prefer to see, and that's what I prefer to recommend. And if you told the applicant to do that, they'd still have a project, they'd still meet the requirements that they make an improvement over existing conditions because the existing conditions are so bad. And it'll save them money on, you know, building those 4 bays and all that. But then you end up with untreated stormwater off of the parkway. And that's not so good. So you're kind of you're between a rock and a hard place, and you have to decide between, you know, is it better? Ultimately, do you get better wetland protection if you treat the stormwater coming off of the parkway by allowing some additional alteration of buffer zone? Or do you say no, you know, protecting the buffer zone, getting as much natural buffer zone as possible is our preference, and recommend that they don't do stormwater management in that area? That's kind of how I see it. That's the conundrum that I think the project presents for the topic of buffer zone protection or work in the buffer zone. And honestly, I don't have the answer for the commission. I feel that's a real conundrum. So again, I think that it's probably something for you to read and digest and think about. But at the end of the day, I think that's the choice the commission has to come to on work in the buffer zone for this project.
I may just very, very briefly regarding the roadway, because I don't want to necessarily make it feel like the applicant is creating this scenario here. We're one of 4 parties. Quantified Parkway is a roadway that's very complicated, and there's 4 different parties that are involved that all have decision-making power over it. We cannot make unilateral changes in the configuration of that roadway, plain and simple. We can make improvements. We have the rights to do that. We can do things like change the grading. In terms of the configuration of that roadway, we cannot unilaterally change that. So that's, and I understand in a different world, we could, you know,
yeah,
I try to renegotiate, but there's so many hands in that pot.
Yeah,
that it's not something we can unilaterally just decide that we're going to move it and then that this problem is fixed.
Absolutely understood.
And I think on top of that, there's a project viability thing as well here, where you know, in order to do the project as a whole, you have to do certain things, right? So
yep, and there are realities. I mean, you know, you are a smart and talented man and charming, and I'm sure those 3 other entities could be brought on board. That said, I understand what you're saying about the realities of you know, getting a project going and so forth, and also, you know, it would be a different story if this weren't an existing road layout and all that. So, you know, so point taken. But yeah.
And whatever decision that the commission desires to make regarding those 4 bays, we are happy to make. I think we proposed what would provide more kind of, you know, sediment reduction into those resource areas. But if the commission desires that we eliminate those 4 bays, we're happy to do so as well.
Were the 4 bays located at the same discharge points that exist out there now? Were they kept?
Yes.
There's certain points around the lake where water travels into the gully next to the highway.
That's correct, yes.
Were you putting those 4 bays at those locations?
Yes, they're all at the existing low points. along the parkway.
Okay,
So my initial thought, and I haven't had a chance to read Matt's entire letter, is that there's gonna be a lot more traffic on that parkway in the future than there is under current conditions. And therefore, I would think whatever we can do to capture the sediment and treat it would be beneficial, rather than not treat it and catch it. That's just my initial thought without going through Matt's, response.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of traffic there now, right? You get people,
No, the
Parking
building-
and
the building's
walking.
empty. Of course, there's no traffic.
yeah, there is. There's people parking there. There's people driving there and leaving their car and walking and everything else. But in the future, obviously, there's going to be however many units, retail, restaurant, the load on the roadway from the vehicles and everything else is going to be astronomically higher than it is today. So whatever treatment we get from those 4 bays is going to be better than not treating it, I think is my thought.
I have a question. You originally, again, designed more, you reduced the 4 bays. And you did that in response to, I think, Matt Burns, you're saying, what are you doing so much in the buffer area? But you think what you designed is as good as what you originally designed? The newly designed? I mean, why would you have done the original design as you did if you didn't think it was necessary, right? Because it'd be spending more money to do that. So I guess the question is, do you feel the scale back version does the job, I guess?
Yeah, so we could eliminate the 4 bays and still meet all the requirements by the handbook. The reason the wet basins were included originally was to maximize nutrient loads off site. The 4 bays only provide sediment removal. There's no calculated nutrient load reduction that we can take credit for with the 4 bays. So we had the wet basins in there for the nutrient load based on, we were trying to maximize the reduction. We were upwards of like 95% per the calculations by the EPA. Without the wet basins, we're down to about 85%. So we're still maintaining the minimum 80% requirement that the town engineer requested. And I mean, 85% is an enormous improvement over what's out there today. There's no nutrient load reduction out there today. So without the wet basins, we lose some of the nutrient load reduction from runoff within the parkway. But by keeping the 4 bays, we're capturing a significant amount of TSS. Whereas if we got rid of the 4 bays, you're going to see the exact same condition that's out there today, less, the crumbling curb. Our curbs, they're not going to crumble like they are out there today, but you're still going to see those sediment concentrations backing up into the road and just downstream on those paved swales.
Okay. And can I ask, I'm sorry, can I ask Matt D'Amico, who are the other 3 parties that have a say in Quanah Parkway? Is it the abutters who have rights to use it?
Yeah, so when the roadway was originally created, since there's a bunch of different access that comes off of it, so it's our direct abutter, RJ Kelly. And then there's that when you're at North Ave and Quanah Parkway, there's that vacant parcel that I believe this commission has studied quite a bit.
Yes.
That Beal is a separate party, separate real estate party, somewhat absentee there that's involved. The town of Wakefield also has rights over that roadway as well.
So that really covers the content of the letter you received today.
okay.
And I'm sorry, can I just ask, I know you just got that letter today. Does the applicant have any response to what Matt Byrne had to say? I realized you just got it very short, not long ago.
Yeah,
I mean, go ahead, Matt, go ahead.
all I was gonna say is I think, you know, on these points, I think we're in the realm of things that we can work with. Regarding, you know, any kind of cleanup of that stream, I think we could, you know, figure out you know, where my head goes initially is we could find some kind of solution where I know there's silt build up in there, where we could find something that improves the existing conditions substantially, just kind of by cleaning up the existing conditions. That's where my mind first goes to. I think on all these other points, we're kind of, you know, I think we can get there. I apologize, Scott, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I was gonna say, you know, something very similar to that. You know, Matt mentioned 3 points. He mentioned the riverfront area compliance, and I think what I heard is that all parties think we're pretty much there on riverfront compliance. Buffer zone issues that, you know, I think we're there. And I think I heard Matt say something similar to that as well. You know, we wrestled out this stormwater question about the removal of the wet basins. So, you know, I feel pretty confident this project has advanced substantially toward the finish line here. And, you know, if there's outstanding matters that the commission or peer review sees that have not been addressed, you know, certainly let's get them out there. But I think that we're nearing the finish line from what I see.
You know, the only thing I don't remember, I know we talked about it and maybe I wasn't paying attention, but did we give a lot of discussion about the lighting?
We did have a discussion about that with the landscape plan, Jimmy.
Yeah, was there any unanswered questions there, or I don't really remember, but I seem to think that we went through it fairly quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I can't rehash, you know, everything that was said, but I do recall we talked about lumens, we talked about directional lighting, and things of that nature. I mean, we could do a quick review of that if we need to.
Scott, does anything pop out in your head about the lighting? Any issues?
So what's the question specifically?
I guess I'm asking, was there any outstanding issues concerning lighting?
I don't recall any. Nick, did you
Remember that we did
outstanding
the
on lighting?
presentation with Copley Wolf, the landscape architect, as well as, you know, Alan Major. I thought, you know, my takeaway from that was it went pretty well. I don't remember there being any outstanding questions that came from that conversation, however.
Do we have a lighting plan?
Yes.
And what's the number on that plan? Do you know? I'm looking at the landscaping plan. I have it here in front of me.
Nick, do you know that offhand?
Yeah, it should be sheet C107A and 107B.
Thank you. 107A and 107B. And the date on that, can you give that to me?
It should be January 5th, I believe, was when we submitted it, of 2022.
Okay.
I can just share my screen.
Let's take a look at the lighting, yeah.
So the majority, I'll preface this by saying the majority of the lighting was designed by Copley Wolf, the landscape architect. Really, the only hand I had in the lighting was the lighting along the parkway itself, where we are proposing to keep the existing light pole bases and replacing the pole and fixtures. It'll all be all the lights on the site will be LED, and they can be dimmed, timed,
Yeah, wasn't there any issue with, wildlife and lighting and the color of the lighting and stuff like that?
Yeah, we did
Animals
cover
up
all
there.
that.
Huh?
We did cover all that, Jimmy, during that meeting.
Okay. So
Yeah, these will be more of like an amber light, not super high Kelvin lighting. That more of like the white light spectrum.
Right.
Is it
Okay.
directional? Is it directional? Is it shielded?
Yes. Yep. Each
Okay.
fixture will be shielded.
So you could shield it away from the wetlands?
That's correct.
Yeah, we had
Right
talked
now, these
about,
thing lights are pretty much uncontrolled. It's kind of just a big blob of light that comes
Yeah.
down, where
Right.
these will kind of shoot everything forward.
yeah, I know we even talked about the color spectrum and how many Kelvins it was, and I don't recall, but it was less than 3,000. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know if
believe it was
that's,
2,500 maybe.
yeah. I mean, we always want to be below 3,000 for any type of outdoor lighting. You want to be in the white spectrum and away from the blue. Yeah, the more natural looking towards the yellow side is better than, obviously, than the blue side.
Right. All right, so what are we where are we at here?
I do think we need to go through Matt's letter. I don't know if the applicant has had a chance to review that or not. Matt was asking for some riverfront improvement. So we'd want to see what the applicant comes back with, I guess, there.
Well, I think this is Scott. I honestly, I think that Matt's letter didn't bring anything necessarily new to the table. Though the riverfront improvements, we've gone over that for many hours during these public hearing processes. We've documented it with multiple letters and responses. I don't see us changing anything at this point as to what's proposed in riverfront area. I think we've demonstrated regulatory compliance, with belts and suspenders. And then his other comments, I don't see any of them needing a particular response. They were kind of high level about just general consideration of the degree of work in buffer zone and, consideration of the stormwater features as they are, been the wet basins plus or minus. So I don't anticipate a response coming from the applicant's side
So,
to Matt's latest letter.
so comment 3, that he recommends a longer monitoring schedule. So you could respond to that.
Well, I think that's something they easily, if the commission would like that to happen, they simply just add that as a special condition. And we just increase the amount of monitoring. It's not requiring a whole nother round of review.
Okay. And
Yeah.
his next comment about, I know we could recommend an ecological restoration plan for the stream.
So we show significant amounts of ecological restoration in riverfront area. I think our entire last hearing was spent talking about that. So I'm satisfied with the level of ecological restoration proposed, and I can't think of anything more that we would consider proposing.
And Matt Byrne, do you agree with that?
Well, what I was putting on the table was that I think that we could get some improvement of the stream channel itself, because we've been talking about how it's blocked up and heavily sedimented and so forth. So I think there's an opportunity for the commission to push on that and try to get some improvement to that stream channel. So yeah, I think there's
Matt, I can comment on that. I've spent hours now kind of understanding the hydrography and water flow patterns in and out of the lake as it relates to our property and offsite. And I know Dennis is on the call as well, and he'll probably have something to chime in on about this. But there's a couple issues that relate to the lake that are unrelated to this property. Okay, I'll highlight them at just a quick level, but I don't want to go too deep down this path. The main problem is that there's this diversion canal on the other side of the highway that heads through the town of Reading, and the primary path of water flowing historically to the lake no longer enters the lake through the stream that is adjacent on our site. Basically, there's zero water flow that goes from underneath 128 to our site into the lake, where there really ought to be, so the lake would get better water turnover. And the reason we're not getting the water entering the lake is because it's entering this diversion channel on the other side of Route 128. It's easily rectified by putting in the weir boards that it's designed for at a point up near Dennis's neighborhood, but that's in the town of Reading and has nothing to do with us. Likewise, the Lake Quannapowitt is held up fairly high by its outflow boards on the other side of the lake to make it so that it's hard to get the proper elevation pitch to the lake and to get the flow through the section of stream that goes through our piece of property. When those two items are corrected, I think there would be proper drainage toward the lake. You'd get higher turnover of the lake, and you'd probably reduce algae blooms in the lake substantially. Now, that said, there is a deposition of sediment that exists at the so-called mouth of this stream that we have on our property, in part, as it enters the lake. That mouth of the lake area is off our site. That's in the town's property, and it has nothing to do with this property. It has to do with long-term sediments, and mostly from Route 128, to be honest. I walked along Route 128 this morning, and there's at least 6 catch basins that directly discharge heavy amounts of sediments, trash, untreated runoff directly into the system, and the water just sits there. It's untreated, so you wouldn't really necessarily want it to go straight into the lake. But if Mass DOT treated it, then it could enter into the system, and with the change in the hydrology, it could go into the lake and all be fine and good. So look, there's improvements that can be made to the river system, but not to the river system that we have any control over on our property. Those are high-level suggestions. I really don't want to get into a big discussion about them. I think the commission could sponsor a committee study group. Dennis should be part of that group. The town of Reading should have a representative there. And some of these things can be looked at for the long-term health of the lake. But this applicant has done a tremendous job contributing to the health of the lake from what it has control over on its own property. And there's nothing that I see that would be needed to do on our property in the effectively abandoned stream channel until the towns, the Friends of the Lake, the other interested parties put their heads together and come up with the solutions to this kind of a situation. So no, I don't propose any further ecological restoration on our site. I don't think it's warranted. It's a small piece to a much bigger puzzle.
Yeah, food for thought.
And can I ask another question? Where are you with the ZBA?
Yes. So I think what we're anticipating at this point is, we're in the process right now of working with the ZBA, the right conditions for the project. And we are anticipating a vote on the matter likely in the month of March.
And is our position that we like to see what the ZBA does, or before we do anything, or at the same time? It's not a question for you, Matt. I'm sorry. It's a question for my fellow commissioners.
Well, is it possible that the ZBA is going to, they're going to need a bunch of road improvements that are going to directly affect this I mean, I guess that's one question I would have. Is whether there's going to be further impacts.
I can tell you at this point, the plans that you have are coordinated with what we have in front of the ZBA. All of the improvement, there's a few minor things that are changing in the ZBA process, but they're not to do with footprint or materials really at this point at all. So I think that's pretty well coordinated at this point.
So do you have an up-to-date plan that we can use as far as right in our order?
Yeah, we can. I think what makes sense is if there's kind of consensus on this. I think the last consensus thing on our part in terms of just plan is the inclusion of these 4 bays as part of the project.
Yeah.
Provided that is the guidance that we're receiving, is that would be the way to go. We could absolutely file a definitive plan, a revised definitive plan set with the Conservation Commission for the next meeting.
Well, I think we'd like to see that document that you're talking about that you have with the town or with the Friends of Lake Quannapowitt. I'd like to see what that's about, and if it's adequately covering us, we have our concerns.
But
So,
how do you think, I'm sorry, but Matt offered to also put it in a condition to ours as well.
But what in?
The agreement to pay the money in our order of conditions. So Jim, I agree with you. We should see the agreement with the Friends, but again, I think we could also include it in our order.
Well, yeah, I guess that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I missed.
Is we need to have that information so we can include it in.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Or at least see that there's something there that supports what we're doing.
mhm. Is it foreseeable that there will be some of the some of the infrastructure improvements that are going to be needed off the site to accommodate the traffic are going to necessitate other filings, with Concom? I'm just asking you a question. I don't know. I'm not even sure what the relevance of it is, but
Yeah, I can't totally speak to that. I know, in terms of the $1.3 million for the Main Street project, that includes roadway improvements. I believe its proximity to Lake Quannapowitt would necessitate another Concom filing. In terms of Quannapowitt Parkway itself, we have there's for off-site portions of Quannapowitt Parkway, we are going to be required to provide funding for improvements there. The town of Wakefield would be doing that. I don't think I assume that the town of Wakefield would need to go through some kind of conservation process. But I mean, I guess in the extent of Quannapowitt Parkway, it's really just maintenance of the existing condition. I'm not sure if there's.
or I guess I'm talking about things like the intersection at Quannapowitt Parkway and North Avenue, and the intersection of Quannapowitt Parkway and Lowell Street. I'm just curious whether this is the kind of project that's actually going to, that there's a couple other dominoes that are going to drop in terms of things that need to be done that are going to be they're going to be buffer zone projects. And all I'm asking myself is whether there is some benefit to thinking about all the buffer zone projects collectively rather than kind of one at a time. Approve one and then, well, if we approve this, then it has to be done. Then that's all I'm at. I'm just,
and it's a fair point.
I'm just trying to envision sort of on an overall basis, forgetting about property lines, assuming you have the entire property, where every piece of work is going to be done.
Yeah.
Whether there's other portions that are going to be coming before us.
Yeah. So I guess probably most squarely that I can put it is, we could, with a ZBA approval and a Conservation Commission order of conditions, we could execute the project with just those 2 approvals in the near term. I think this project has an unprecedented amount of mitigation funds coming out of it, which are going to be funding a plethora of projects throughout the town. I absolutely could see that some of those projects could
Mm.
require further Conservation Commission review, but the way they're all structured, it's funding, which at this point, I think in some cases, they're not even designed. For instance, on Lowell Street, there's some stuff that we're funding that hasn't been designed. We won't be involved in designing it. So I don't know if we can, at this point, get ahead of those steps. That is my perspective, at least.
And that's fair. I guess you're saying, but I guess what I'm hearing is it is foreseeable that there's going to be collateral work done that is going to necessitate further review by the commission that directly relates to going forward with this project. That's all I really want.
Whether it's 2 years from now or 5 years, I think that's reasonable.
Trying to understand the implications of this on an overall basis.
Yep.
And I'm not sure how to digest that, but
Yeah, what are we doing about snow plowing, snow removal? Anyone?
Yeah, I can touch on that. So snow removal will be handled on site in the landscaped areas to an extent. It's outlined in the O&M plan that during large snow events or consecutive snow events, that the snow will be taken off site in accordance with outlines from Mass DEP. So that's really the extent of the snow removal.
So what areas what vegetated areas you're gonna put it in?
Any of the landscaped areas, like the green spaces between the parking stalls. Obviously, there's not a ton of area, so under a large snow event, that it would have to be trucked off site.
What do you call a large snow event?
8 inches.
tonight?
Depends on the area that gets snowed on. If it's a wide open parking lot with, a 100,000 square foot parking lot, it's going to create a lot of snow with even 3 inches.
Yeah.
So it
It would
varies.
depend on how much snow is already on the site.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant by consecutive.
Yeah.
So if it snows 3 inches and then the next week it snows another 6 inches, you're probably going to be running out of space.
So I have a question with this, if I may. We have a site in town, the supermarket, and has the same arrangement as this, that at certain snowfalls, the snow will be removed off-site. And, it's a hit or miss proposition, I must say, because although it was written into the order of conditions, it isn't necessarily followed. And also, what happens is this: you get a heavy snowfall, you get a foot, let's say. And in practical terms, the people who run the snow plows, they plow the snow, and because they're so busy, it isn't until sometime later that they get around to coming back and taking that snow, which is now piled in large piles, and putting in a truck and removing it off site. We have the same problem actually at Heron Pond. And so what happens is, as a practical matter, they put that snow wherever they can, because they have to plow it. People have to get out, they have to use the parking lot. And the people who are going to be coming around to remove that snow won't be coming around for another 4 or 5 days, because they're constantly plowing. So my question is, how does that practically work, other than saying, yes, we're going to do it? Because what happens in practice is you get these huge mounds of snow that get put anywhere because there's no place else to put it until it is removed off-site.
Yeah, so maybe Matt can touch on it too from an operations standpoint, but I would say, again, your biggest insurance here is that this is a high-end development, and these tenants are paying top price for these units, and they're gonna need a place to park. They're they're not going to want to have snow just left in these parking lots piled up in front of their front door. And so the snow removal contractor that's hired to maintain this site is going to be someone who's familiar with the site. They're going to know where they can and can't store snow. And they're going to know when those areas become occupied by too much snow and kind of get ahead of it and pick up that snow ahead of a snowstorm that's coming in. So this isn't like a shopping plaza where they have a huge parking lot and, it's owned by a bunch of different tenants that you can just pile snow in a random corner and nobody's going to complain. These are people's parking spots. This is the only place they have to park. And, the owners are going to get a bunch of complaints if they start piling up snow wherever they feel like on the site.
I guess further to that point, just to almost exaggerate it a little bit more, every single parking space in this property, including the surface parking spaces, is also going to have a rent associated with it. So people are literally paying for these spaces, and just from an operations perspective, we can't afford to not have those plowed when people are literally paying for each space. Whereas again, in the case of it, I assume what you're referring to is the Shaws in town, where they come in with 1 billion parking spaces, and it doesn't that each individual parking space matters a lot less. Whereas in our project, it matters a lot more.
Well, I'm thinking actually more of Heron Pond, which is in its own right a very nice development, and the snow doesn't get pushed into the parking spaces, so parking spaces are lost. It gets pushed into empty spaces in the buffer zone until such time as it can be removed or it melts. So it's just something to think about. I know when you hire a contractor, unless you have a contractor specifically on call for your development, you hire anybody who's got a snowplow on the front of his truck. And those people go around from site to site and they push the snow wherever they can push the snow. And sometime later, when they're finished doing that, they come back to sites and then they remove the snow. So my concern is one of two things. Either it gets pushed off to the side, as we've had a problem with before at Quanapowit. It gets pushed too close to the lake, or it gets pushed in a place where you've already installed expensive landscaping. And then what happens is it breaks that landscaping so that it's broken once the snow melts. I have some concern about that. So when this snowplow person, this contractor is hired, is he specifically assigned to just this parcel, or are you just hiring any snowplow person you can find for the season?
It's a good question. So the way we operate all these multifamily projects is from the day one when we acquire the site to when the site is under construction to when we operate the actual buildings, we'll have a real snow contract that's assigned to one company for each winter. And it's a big expense, but it's a way for us to have priority snow removal. Dealing with this climate and being able to produce like a high quality project, it's necessary. In the case of the multifamily world, and I can say, in the case of any successor, we're planning on being in this, for a while at least, if not for the long haul. But after we build this thing in 50 years, if someone else owns it, I would say for multifamily projects of this scale, that's the common mode of operation, where you have a seasonal contractor versus just finding someone.
Okay, so what we had with Shaw's, which should work, is that there was a plan that they submitted that showed where the snow could and could not be stored. Is there a way to get a contract like that, perhaps from one of your other properties?
Yeah, let me look into that, and I can hopefully provide you a more complete answer at the next meeting. But I think that should be possible.
Thank you.
I know this, you talk about the high end nature of the project, and I keep coming back to. Is there anything that talks about noise mitigation? In other words, that we're not talking about there being a wall or anything that is contemplated to keep the noise off 128 from permeating into the project. But is that, I'm just trying to understand whether I'm just trying to think of other things that build this project, and then other things that are going to flow from that we're not thinking about right now. And I'm thinking about, for example, a noise wall having to be built between 128 and the project. I can't hear you. You're on mute, Tressa.
Well, they would have to come back to us for that. That'd be another alteration of the buffer.
Okay,
But
but
it's not something that we're proposing. We have, a benefit for us just in terms of how this is all laid out, the site planning, is our garage is in the rear of the site. So it blocks out a tremendous amount of potential, noise that could permeate into the project. There are still some units that are going to be impacted by that. All of that we can and we will handle through the design of the building. I don't see at any point, and especially with the changes of elevations between our site and the highway, I'm not sure how effective it would be. We wouldn't be coming back to your commission or to MassDOT or anything to get any kind of noise barrier here.
Can you put a rep on that's not that you've thought about it, not contemplated it will be necessary? I mean, is that something that I just feel like I guess I'm just concerned about we approve the project and then things keep dropping on us that flow from that.
And I absolutely appreciate that. And I think more than anyone, I think we don't necessarily want to go back into the entitlement process again after we've gotten our permits, right?
But now the project's built and it's unhealthy to the people who are living there, and we're in a different procedural posture than we would be. And I guess I just want to contemplate that possibility, because as you say, it's a high-end project, and people aren't going to tolerate there's a certain level of noise that's just not going to be tolerated, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on us when people come back.
But Peter, to Teresa's point, if it's working the buffer zone, they would need to come back, or jurisdictional area, they'd need to come back before us.
This is like this reminds me of the person says, then they come back and they say, the tree is too close to the house and we're worried. And we're just in a position that because the project's already in, we're in a different position. All I'm just trying to think of trying to think of things on the edges.
Yeah, I mean, we can't think of every unforeseeable event.
Yeah, with noise, but the noise on the highway, that doesn't sound so unforeseeable to me that would not. I just want to make sure that you've thought of and you've done whatever you think you believe no is necessary to mitigate from the noise, and that you've thought about it. And I guess I sort of want that to be sort of make sure that it's on the record that was considered and you've made a decision.
If that's something that I wouldn't want to preclude it from someone 40 years from now from trying to get that approved, but if that's some kind of representation, we've done plenty of projects in the past where we've had this sort of condition and we've been able to manage it. We have a project in Quincy that we completed in 2016, I want to say, where there was a similar condition and we didn't need anything like that. But I guess I'm going on the record now and saying that that's not something that we would seek for this project.
Peter, it's gonna be all electric cars and trucks in 10 years, so you don't have to worry about it.
You know what? Your mouth to God's ears, that's good. That's good. But Judy, you got that in notes? Not the part about the electric.
Don't worry, I got it all.
Okay,
I'll
thank
be
you.
recorded. Any other questions or requests? Elaine, you got any other questions or requests?
No, I have nothing more.
Okay.
Are we closing this thing tonight?
There was,
No.
no, there was a request that was put out there a couple minutes ago.
It's too bad. Could we have one more session to just look at the O and M plan?
Yeah, we are asking for one more, Jimmy.
Right.
What?
We are asking, there was a request for some more information.
Okay. Yep.
All right, are there any other questions from the commission?
I just want to note that as far as I know, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have a final sign off in writing from the town engineer. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Okay,
we-
so go ahead.
No, yeah, you're right.
Okay, we still need that before we close.
Yeah, we're not closing tonight.
Okay.
All right, are there questions from the public?
Dennis has his hand raised, Bob.
Yes, he does. All right, we are about 2 hours behind schedule here. Dennis, you are muted. Unmute yourself, please. Okay. Do you have a quick question for us?
Yes, I'll be very brief. I won't take more than 2 minutes. Can I share my screen? Share file? Does that come up? No.
No, do you have a question you'd just like to ask, or?
Okay, well, earlier it said, Matt said that there's nothing he can do about the blockage of Walker's Brook. Well, I believe that either he or his predecessor or title put that blockage into Walker's Brook and to block the stream. It was done by repeated plowing of snow into the outlet for Walker's Brook into Lake Quannapowitt. So what I would do is I would make that a precondition that material be removed and the damming of Walker's Brook be removed before you even consider anything else.
Is that on this property, Dennis?
They actually pushed it onto Wakefield's property. So they would have to coordinate with the town to get that material removed, so Walker's Brook flows into the lake again. Now, also, I also misspoke earlier, Matt, when I said the structures on waterways, at the outlets of waterways was Mass General Law. I said chapter 41, section 19. It's actually chapter 91, section 19, which says that unfortunately, I can't share my screen for some reason. Share screen. Is that, oh, here it is. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, that's chapter 90, 91 waterways. And I know the town, the powers that be in the town want this project to go through. and I know Matt wants this project to go through. So I would use whatever, I mean, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that you have to clean the lake by restoring the flow of water through Walker's Brook into the lake, and by removing those structures that is blocking, raising the level of the lake down at Lowell Street. Now, I went down there today, Matt, and they had added another board and raised the lake higher. I don't know why they do that, but I guess people at Patriot Circle or someplace complain about the flow of water or something, but it has nothing to do with Patriot Circle, because it doesn't make any difference at all whether water goes into the Saugus River overflow, which is called the Reading Drainage Canal, or it goes through Lake Quannapowitt, as it should, because those two streams join before anything, long before Patriot Circle, whatever people are complaining about. But it's so if you could get the town to remove those obstructions at Lowell Street and get the applicant to remove the dam from Walker's Brook, you'd have flow into the lake again. And the lake would, over a period of time, clean itself. And you would also wouldn't be killing all the fish that are trying to flow upstream in the spring. And those fish would be able to enter the lake and go up Walker's Brook and lay their eggs and spawn and do their thing. And it would be so much more healthy. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for the Conservation Commission to actually do something about cleaning the lake. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate everything you do.
All right, thank you, Dennis.
Okay.
All right, I know Elaine covered in the very beginning of the meeting a lot of the potential issues with that flow and all that, and I think there would be the need for some further discussion outside of this project on some of those, actions. But point well taken. Are there any other questions from the public?
So, on that note, I have a question. So I'm looking at the property line again, and according to your plans, you do not own any portion of that stream, is that correct? Your property line, does it stop in the middle of the stream? Does it stop before the stream? Does 100 Quannapowitt own both sides of the stream?
Nick, are you able to bring the existing conditions plan up for a moment?
Yeah. The property line runs more or less somewhat down the middle of the stream. It kind of splits the stream. This is our site to the right. This is 100 to the left. This is the property line where my cursor is here. And the stream is the wetland flags.
Okay, so the stream is the wetland flags, got that, and the property line.
Almost up the middle.
I'll draw it on here for you.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. I'm looking at one side. I see it. Okay. So you own about, according to this, you own maybe a fifth of the stream, linear feet wise, right?
Right, yeah. I think that's
Okay.
right.
So the majority of the stream is owned by 100 Quannapowitt.
No, that's not true.
Yeah, so this is our property right here.
Okay, I see it. Thank you.
At what point is blockage? Where's the,
I believe it occurs over here on the, I think there's some on this side of the culvert, and the majority of it occurs right in this area back here. Which is.
I think
on the
further to
side.
Matt Burns' point of any kind of restoration within that stream, yeah, that's the type of thing that I think if it's the desire of the commission to condition something like that, we can't promise anything that happens off our property, and we can't commit to any performance standard for anything off of our property. But to the extent that that culvert, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, and I'm not a scientist, but to the extent that it's reasonable to be clearing out that culvert of any debris that's kind of built up in there, if it's the desire of the commission for us to do something like that, we're absolutely happy to do that. But we just can't, we can only control what we can control. We can't, culverts or boards in other parts of the town, it's not something that we could reasonably control as part of this process.
It's understandable.
So I'm looking at the plan here. I'm looking to the right of the red line. And there are two lines that go under Lake Quannapowitt. And does that say culvert in it? It's hard to read.
Yeah, this is a culvert. I'm not exactly sure on the size. It's probably close to a 48-inch culvert, 36 to 48.
Okay, so is that the culvert that we're talking about being blocked?
Yeah, I believe what Dennis is referring to is, based on my recollection, there's probably some debris in front of this culvert. It's not completely blocked. As water builds up, it can go beyond the culvert, but it is pretty well dammed. I mean, Scott, you may know better.
Yeah,
than
no,
me.
Nick, you're
Just
right.
like-
Right where your cursor is, there is a deposit of sediments and that, probably warrant coming out of that location. Honestly, that's not that's a small piece to a bigger puzzle. I think the other things that have come up about boards and flow are more important than this, the Mass DOT runoff, all of it. If there was active water flowing through that stream, then it would naturally push those sediments further into the lake and make a path. But there's just no velocity of water to even do that. So yeah, those sediments ought to come out. It shouldn't be tied to this project. It's something the town of Wakefield ought to look into, in my professional opinion. But that is the location, yes.
All right, so I have another question, another follow-up question to that. Do you believe if the blockage were to be removed, that the water that would flow into the lake would carry sediments, debris, plastics, that sort of thing?
Well,
It would make the
one-
lake dirtier. Do you think it would make the lake dirtier is my question.
So as it stands right now, and we're getting a little bit off topic in my opinion. So as it stands right now, there's just no velocity of water that comes through there. So whether you remove it or don't remove it, you're not going to really see a flowage of water in that direction. Okay, that's number one. Number two is, if water did flow in that direction, you're getting a lot of contribution of the runoff that's untreated from Route 128 that discharges all along there. Mass DOT does not do a good job of taking care of its drainage. And so there is some question about the quality of the water that comes off the highway for sure. I mean, we could take a walk out there, you could see it. It's not great. But nevertheless, with some cleanup of the 128 runoff, then what's most important for this lake to stop algae blooms is turnover of the water, right? So you're not going to get that unless you get water moving in, water moving out. It's the stagnant water that causes all the summer algae blooms. Anyway, so again, off topic. I'd like to wrap this conversation up. I do think the commission, should maintain an interest. Obviously, it does in the lake and some of these more global picture kind of questions. This property is a very small piece to it. We've done our part, really. I think really with spades. And I have some thoughts myself as a professional. I'm sure Matt Byrne and Dennis and others all have contributing thoughts as well. Collectively, there's probably some good solutions here that would be good for the lake. But we're not going to get further on those questions or answers with this particular project.
All right, Elaine, any other questions?
No, that answers my question.
But I mean, yeah, I mean, that is something that needs to be addressed, and it's just one piece of many aspects that need to be addressed.
You probably have to have a study done there.
Yeah,
You can't just go digging, trying stuff all over the place. You gotta know that what you're gonna do is gonna solve the problem. And the only way to do that is to have a study done.
okay, are there any other questions from the public? All right.
So
Dennis,
we're gonna continue the meeting?
yes, let's continue this meeting to the 10th. And let's move on to our next hearing that we're well over 2 hours behind on.
They still here?
Yes, I see John.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll
Have a good
continue.
night.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is DEP 313602. It happens to be 237 Water Street. This is public hearing continued. This is a notice of intent for the reconfiguration of pavement and addition of car vacuum stations and fencing within the buffered bank and within the riverfront to the Mill River.
So, did you say you saw John Ogren?
I saw John, I guess it wasn't John Ogren.
I have in my notes here that he requested a continuance to March
Okay.
10th.
All right,
I
that's
was
not on
surprised
the,
that you saw him.
yeah, no, there was a John, but that John has just left the meeting, so evidently it wasn't John Ogren.
Okay, so this has been if you want to open it and continue it to March 10th.
Okay, it is opened and continued.
Okay,
The applicant's request.
all right. So let's see. I think I may have sent you something.
New Salem Street.
New Salem Street. I have not yet heard back from the town that they are ready for a certificate of compliance. So I would request that that be continued until I hear back. They're supposed to contact me when they're ready to go, and I don't have anything yet. I do have something for 134 Greenwood Street, request for a certificate of compliance.
Okay,
And I understand from Rebecca that all I really needed to do, she spoke to you about this at a previous meeting, and from what I understand from her, that the only thing that needed to be done was to measure the new construction to see that it complied with the proposed plan.
right.
And I have done that, and it does. So I would recommend that a certificate of compliance issue.
Okay, we'll take a vote on that. Yeah, it was an addition to a single family house. All right, would somebody like to make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for 134 Greenwood Street?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Savannah,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes,
and I also vote yes.
Okay, I'll get the document out and leave it with Jim. Do you have something on your agenda for 94 Butler Avenue?
Yes.
Okay, that one,
discussion.
you may remember this from a previous filing. There was supposed to be a subdivision in there. It turned out there was asbestos on the site.
Oh, yeah.
The project was withdrawn. The town wound up buying the property, and now they have to cap it. So originally it was scheduled for tonight, and Bill Renault prepared a package of information for you, but he couldn't make tonight's meeting. So he requested that it be continued to March 10th. And there'll be a package in your next, for your next meeting. But this is just a discussion, but I wanted to let you know he couldn't make it tonight.
Okay, actually, I didn't see that on the agenda I printed.
So there was a revised agenda, Bob. It sounds like
Okay.
you don't, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there was a revised agenda and then things came in even after that.
okay.
But that's what this project is about. It's about capping that site. And there's some discussion about what the commission wanted to see included in the notice of intent.
So,
So that's what,
94 Butler, is that the site where the old Atwell building was?
Yes.
deposited?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
well, that's the address.
okay.
What
Was
was
that-
it?
Do we know the price? Just out of curiosity, they bought that subdivision. They bought all the land, huh?
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
We bought the land.
So when did this happen?
Yeah, they meaning we. It's
town.
been negotiations for a couple of years. I don't know exactly when the property transferred.
Yeah, we had the whole approval for the subdivision and everything, I remember.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
He had the hay bales laid
Yeah.
out, ready to go. And somebody from DEP came out and stopped the whole project, and everything fell apart after that.
Wow. I totally missed that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it looks like there's nothing else on the agenda, is that correct?
No,
Yes,
Jim has something.
last thing. Yeah, Judy's right. Jim's letter, which
Oh,
I
yeah.
also forwarded to you.
Jim, it was exquisitely written.
Didn't you do a good job?
Amazing.
I'm glad you like it. I'll have to do another one. Does everyone have it? Has anyone read it?
Yes,
Yes, I read it.
maybe read it twice.
Do we have comments on it?
None. My comment was, it was well written.
Well, someone's got to have some comments.
I had some comments, but I don't know if you want to hear them. But
Yeah, I do want to hear them, good or bad.
well, no,
I gave you my comment, Jim, so.
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah. No, I mean, Teresa, what's your comments?
so it made incorrect references to the some of the statute, and that it's the DEP statute, but it's not a statute. Is enacted by the legislature, not the. But again, they're very legal comments. So I'm happy to mark it up and send it back out. But those are the kind of comment it is.
So do you want to rewrite this?
I would know. I could just redline and show you my little visions. How's that?
Okay, are you ready to redline it now?
Well, can you vote to approve the issuance and based on Teresa sending you the changes, and then you can sign it?
Yeah,
Right,
but
yeah. And I'll
I
send the changes, literally, Judy, I'll send them as a document. You can just accept the change, the print.
Well, wait a minute, I want to hear what the changes are.
Okay, hold on.
But, and you can't talk in legal jargon, you got to make it regular American English.
Well, that's what legal jargon is. If a lawyer, if you can't understand it, it's no good.
Jimmy, you might be in build, you're being billed right now, billable minutes.
I'm just looking at the letter. Hold on.
Well, wouldn't it be easier just for Teresa to mark it up?
I will. And
Yeah.
So just to clarify, it's not the content of what
Exactly.
Jimmy wrote.
It's just
It's just
references.
the
That's right.
references,
It's not
Jimmy.
the
So it's nothing about
No,
what
no
the point you're
substantive
trying to make.
change. No substantive change.
It's nothing changing the point you're trying to make.
right. Well, my overall point, I made this to Jim, is that I just question what, we're not, the planning board doesn't have a decision before it. This is going
Yes,
to,
the planning board does have a decision before.
what is the
because
decision?
they-
for?
there's a request to repeal this bylaw, so the planning board has asked if the commission has comments on it, please send it to them.
Right.
And you
was a-
should have comments
I thought
on it.
this was going, I thought this was going to town meeting.
No, no, I
It
told
hasn't
you
yet. It hasn't
last
been
night,
decided
there's-
yet.
Okay,
I
okay.
told you last night, there's an article at town meeting concerning this. They want to get rid of the bylaw.
Yeah, but I thought you said that sort of that is already going to town meeting and
It
therefore,
already is. Judy, isn't that going to town meeting?
It's on,
He's
well,
on the
it-
agenda.
It's on the agenda, but the planning board has to write a recommendation.
that's,
Okay.
That's
okay.
what the, yes,
Now I understand why we're writing a
Yes.
letter. Writing a letter, whether the planning board is writing a recommendation. And I think the purpose of our letter is to say that, for two reasons, that we don't object to taking it off. And in fact, we think it's probably a good idea. Now, at least I
Yes.
understand.
correct.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right.
With Stanley.
He's in bed. He's smart.
All right, so Teresa's gonna mark it up and send it back.
Okay,
All right,
very minor and
I don't think she
non-substantive.
needs the, if she can live with, what are you gonna change?
I
Just the
can,
wording?
I can. The answer is, you know what? I'm sorry, I take it all back. It doesn't change the substance. It's not meant to be a lawyeristic document, so it's fine. It's fine. You're right. You're right.
I'm not trying to get you upset. I'm just-
Wow.
I'm not upset at all. No, you're making me do less work, Jim. Why would I be upset?
No, I want to put this to bed is my issue.
Yes, the answer is you can sign it just the way,
You know
just the way it is, Jim.
At 10:37 at night, putting it to bed sounds like.
Jimmy, let this be a lesson. Consult your legal counsel before you write something.
Well, yeah, I
He
know.
did, he talked to me.
No, it's Jim, your point is well taken and it's fine.
Okay, thank
Teresa,
you.
if you have made red lines, I'd appreciate looking at it. You don't have to send it to Jimmy or send it, I would just be curious.
Sure.
Thank you.
And I apologize for not doing it before this meeting because I meant to, so I'm
Well,
sorry.
that's the point I was really
Okay,
trying
do
to
you just
make.
want to vote?
Jim, I know, your point was not lost on me, Jim, I understand.
Okay.
So can we vote on
All right.
substance of this and know there'll be
Yeah.
some minor corrections?
Or not,
How about just a motion to issue the letter?
yes.
Well, that's what I would like to hear
Yes.
as a motion to issue. the
I
letter.
make a motion to issue the letter.
Is there a second?
Second,
Okay, all in favor? Silvana,
Yes.
Peter,
yes.
Teresa,
Yes.
Jimmy,
Yes.
Ken,
Yes,
and I also vote yes.
The letter, wait a minute, now that we just said
Oh,
that.
boy.
The letter that you just approved is which one? The one that you just modified, Judy? Or the one that we had before that?
Whatever you want. It's not up to me.
Can someone pull up their copy of what they received tonight? 'Cause-
Tonight you sent it?
No, wasn't tonight, Jimmy.
I just sent it to you, Jim.
It was a while ago.
Okay, so we've got the right letter then, okay.
Yes, yes.
All right, good.
What are you
It's all
revealing?
set.
Continue.
Did Paul get copied on this?
No,
Oh, Paul didn't get copied on it?
Yeah, send it over to Paul.
All right, we'll send it to you, Paul.
thank you.
Jimmy, just forward it to him.
I can't do that right now.
I'll send it to you, Paul.
Yeah, Judy.
No, Judy, because I want to go over this with you
Okay,
first.
all right, okay, all right. I'll make sure he sends it, Paul.
We'll get it to you by tomorrow.
That's
It's
fine.
almost tomorrow. Hey, you're
I'm
waiting.
probably
another
not
hour and a
gonna
half.
read it tonight anyway, so.
Okay. All right.
All right, is there anything else that we haven't covered?
Uh,
I had two agendas and I threw the wrong one away.
I don't have anything else. Let's see. That covers everything I have on my agenda.
Okay.
Elaine, are you gonna be at the next hearing?
That's Rebecca's meeting.
Okay.
I might come though, maybe I should. considering
I'm
the,
just thinking because
how
of
big the project is. Huh?
Parkway, that's all, Getney Lane, but it's not up to me, so,
I'll talk to Rebecca about it. I can tune in. And I'll talk to Rebecca about the points that were raised. And it's possible that I could just tune in for this particular hearing.
Mm. Okay.
and we can even text you when to tune in, because not,
Okay,
not that we're
Yeah.
behind ever on the agenda ever, but
okay, yeah, that's fine.
Give you a 2-hour notice.
Next, and then I'll tune in. Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay, Judy, do you have anything else?
No, I have some open space stuff I'm gonna be sending to you in the next week or so, but nothing tonight.
Okay. All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Ken,
Yes.
Jimmy?
You say Jim?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Teresa,
yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Silvana.
Yes.
I also vote to adjourn.
Elaine, when you send that, when you get to Jimmy that the certificate of compliance is signed, let us know, because then I usually text Jimmy and say, can I swing by on a Saturday? So
Yeah.
you're not gonna be around tomorrow, so you won't give it to him tomorrow. So
Yeah, we'll go for breakfast. Make it a Saturday.
That's right.
Okay, yeah, next week, I'll let you all know. I'll send an email out to everybody.